How you handle your lawn care impacts our water and air. In 1 hour, a gas-powered mower produces the same amount of pollution as a car driven 100 miles. Gas-powered lawn equipment harms our air. And yard waste down storm drains causes flooding and water pollution. Using too much fertilizer releases harmful chemicals into our air and runs off lawns, eventually reaching our rivers and streams. Healthy lawn care habits protect your family, our community, and the environment. Healthy yards for healthy communities.
Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting of the City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Click is absent. Councilmember Saper?
Here.
Councilmember Bailey?
Here.
Councilmember McGrone?
Here.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Here.
Councilmember Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Salinas?
Here.
Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Bailey this evening. All right, item 4, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5, comments from the public. Members of the public wishing to make a statement, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. It'll be up on the screen. Welcome.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Tom Roberts. I'm with Garney Construction. We're at 1800 Swift. I'm the Vice President of Accounting and Finance there. I've been with the company 13 years. Garney was established, and I'm here on behalf of the North Kansas City Business Council. So Garney was established in 1961. Charles Garney, many of you may have heard of him or even known him, started the company. We're a construction company, so we do water, large diameter water pipe, sewer pipe, water and wastewater treatment plants. We've been working down the street here a little bit. Mr. Garney sold the company to the employees in 1995, and we became a 100% employee-owned company, and that's a huge deal for us. It really creates a different culture and a different dynamic in the company. Our company, since moving down here in November of 2020, has experienced pretty tremendous growth. We went from about 2,000 employees to about 2,600. And here locally, when we moved down, we had 68 employees. We're now up to 118. So the space there is getting a little small. We've expanded there locally. We've expanded to the south a little bit, taken over some room. We've also expanded to the east and added another 5,000 square foot over there in anticipation of future growth. And over the next 10 years, we're projecting to double, although we're way ahead of those projections for most of our history. And so I just want to talk about how we're trying to support the North Kansas City community since we moved down. First off is the North Kansas City YMCA. One of the first business council meetings that I went to, the then executive director of the Y was doing a presentation on their facilities. And at last part, she mentioned the greenhouse out back and how it didn't have water or electricity out to it. And so we got a crew here locally, took our expertise and our labor force. We got a local rental house to donate, local materials supplier to donate, and took power and water out to the greenhouse. And so it's really increased their production out there, and they're one of the few, if maybe not only, food pantries in the area. So we feel that's been a big help for them. I mentioned expanding to the south. We have what's called the Build Lab there that we put in place, and that's for training craft personnel. So we're also partnering with local technical schools, the high schools, to bring students in there and try and get more of a pipeline of skilled field craft coming in. So we're trying to create our own workforce. And you may have laughed there. We've got another one in town too, but we're partnering with some of the first responders that I see here tonight. We've been over to the fire station a couple times, and they've trained us on CPR. We've also had the police department come over to our office a couple times and have done active threat training there. So that's been real beneficial for our staff. And then lastly, just some of the investments in the community. Of course, the North Kansas City Business Council, the North Kansas City Hospital, or NKC Health now, I guess. The YMCA, a lot of contributions to that. And then local events too, like the Mickey Finn golf tournament. So as coming down here, we're trying to invest where we live and work and make it a better community. And also recently I've become a half homeowner. My son and I bought a place down by Mackett Park, so hopefully someday I'll be a resident as well. With that, I'd open it up for questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Roberts? If you haven't been down to Garney's office space, it is phenomenal. It's Class A all the way. It's the spot, as everyone knows where McLean's is. It's just to the south of that. Absolutely beautiful office space. I'm sure they'd be happy to give any of you a tour if you reach out. So
Thank you for
very
that.
cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Further public comments? Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for letting me be here today. My name is Erin Hall, and I work at Northtown Auto Clinic over on the east side of North Kansas City at 2235 Taney Street. I'm coming before you today because we have the unique experience as an automotive repair of interacting with the intersection of Taney and 210 upward of 20 times a day. And we've just, over the last few years, with the increased volume from 1 North and all the development over there, just been seeing kind of some concerns in regards to the overall function, flow, and layout of that intersection, which I understand that North Kansas City is very limited on what they can do with that intersection, considering it's a MoDOT project. But I wanted to present it to the council today for consideration for talks with MoDOT, potential surveys for the future on possible solutions, because we do realistically, unfortunately, see some very close calls all day long with that intersection. I have brought some paperwork for you guys to review, and I apologize, my printer is as capricious as a teenager going back to school, so it's not the best quality. But I've shown some diagrams there kind of showing difficulties with that intersection, specifically with misalignment of the north-south lanes. We all know the difficulties with the east-west 210 lanes with the on-ramps and everything like that. But specifically, the north-south Taney lanes are very much misaligned, and that causes a lot of confusion for right-of-way and oncoming traffic. That 1 North, the only way for 1 North residents and people interacting with that section of the city to get to 35 North on-ramp is to take that intersection and take a northbound left. That left, you cannot see oncoming traffic very well, and the way that it's set up, it is very much implied that you have the right-of-way, which is not the case. It is a passive green. So there is a lot of confusion there where people turn left, suddenly there's oncoming traffic, what do I do? Near wreck, lots of confusion, XYZ. Additionally, there are no lane markers on the north side of Taney, and it is very unclear whether that is a single lane road for southbound or if it's a 2-lane with a turn and a straightaway. So that also makes it difficult. And then the timing of it is also a little fast. Admittedly, anecdotally, we have a lot of residents at Aura and Backyard that bring their cars to us, and we offer rides to them back across the street because they are too intimidated to cross this road. It is fast. You have to jog it to get across. And additionally, we see a lot of people with mobility assistance devices to try to cross that highway, and it is not doable by any means. So add that and compound with the left turn issue where they think they have the right of way, but they don't. You can see where that can get really hairy and really kind of scary for a lot of people. So realistically, I am not a city planner. I do not know what the solution here is, but I would propose that the council members talk to MoDOT, try to get something moving to try to redesign this or maybe adjust it a little bit. I think probably the best solution to start with would be just turning that left turn into a devoted protected green, and maybe with some additional markings would be really beneficial. But I think that's pretty much everything. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to provide my kind of experience with that intersection.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah.
Quick one for staff. How much control, if any, do we have over this intersection?
Not a lot.
Okay.
This is a MoDOT-owned intersection. The timing of it is dictated by MoDOT. We can definitely have talks with them, and actually, I'd love to catch up and know more about what
Yeah.
concerns are here and look at this.
I
We
can also send a digital copy because
Oh, that's fair. No,
this
that's all right.
did not print well.
That works. No, yeah.
Yeah.
But we can definitely kind of get all those comments together and take them to MoDOT.
Sure.
I think if we come with a cohesive kind of message, that definitely sticks in some way, shape, or form. But it is not our infrastructure to Can't change it tomorrow, but we can definitely have that conversation with them.
What about the north of 210 and the south of 210, like on Taney? Can we stripe that? Is that something we could do to add clarity? Because I mean, I've had my fair share of Arby's from that spot, a little beef and cheddar, and then you come out, there's absolutely no direction on that pavement as to which lane to be in.
And even signage is somewhat lacking too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have what's called their area of influence when it comes to the intersections. They have a lot of control over what happens as you approach that intersection. But again, all conversations we can bring up with them. We'd be happy to help facilitate that.
Absolutely. Do we have a specific point of contact for this area?
I can think of like 3 people specifically for that, so we just have to maybe sit down and kind of do that, yeah.
Perfect. Any council comments or thoughts on this one?
This is just me maybe being a step behind everybody else and trying to wrap my head around this, but is attempting to partly put this in my own words is part of the issue, like northbound cars on Taney turning left, they don't ever
Yes.
have a green arrow. They are supposed to
Yes.
be yielding to southbound cars going right hand.
Exactly. So
Okay.
the lane itself is protected. It's striped off and you are separated. But then the light, which it does have a devoted light, which also kind of indicates that you have a protected green, but it is a passive green. So you do need to yield there, and there's heavy traffic volume through there. I mean, we're gonna have a grocery store soon. That's awesome, right? Which, I know you're working on it, I know. This is not a blame game.
All right, that's enough of this.
But theoretically, grocery stores bring in like 2,000 transactions per day. So that's 2,000 more cars that can potentially go through that intersection and are, for the most part, probably going to be getting on the highway in some fashion. So that means probably turning left onto that on-ramp of 35. So yeah, that left turn, it seems like it's protected. It seems like it is you have the right of way. You very much don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you
Yeah, of
walking me
course.
through that. Yeah, hopefully if we can reach out to MoDOT, especially if One North continues to develop, as we
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
All good points.
Yep, and this would be, I mean, pretty high priority if we could, I know Anthony's got 600 or 700 things on your to-do list. If you could move this up into maybe the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Excellent.
Great. Thank
All
you
right,
all.
thank you very much. Further public comments? Seeing none, we will move on to item 6, ceremonial matters. Proclamation for Valerie Hansen for the North Kansas City Historical Society efforts. I'm going to pull up some fancy words here real quick, and we've got a certificate. But I just want to tell Valerie, thank you very much for your efforts. She's here tonight. Thank you very much for your efforts at keeping the North Kansas City Historical Society alive when it had every reason to fall apart. Through the pandemic, there were a number of folks who just said, we can't do this anymore, we can't meet in person. It's not something we can carry, and you took that on to keep this going. And now it's also been handed off to Michael, who is here tonight, and who put a lot of these words together for you. Michael is doing a phenomenal job of really bringing out some cool things in town. So it's exciting to see, but for you to bring it forward and to keep it going when it could have just disappeared, thank you very much. And we've got this if you'd like to come up and take a quick picture.
Yes, sorry, I was gonna counsel up. Everybody gets into place. Oop, that's hot. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion? Yes.
I'd like to pull item 11 off, please.
Item 11 will be pulled off. Do we have a motion on the amended consent agenda? Would anyone like to approve the amended consent agenda?
Motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, moving down to item 11, River Forest Park. Would we like a staff report on this, or do you have a specific?
So I just have a kind of a general kind of question. It seems that, obviously we have a lot of work related to River Forest Park, and it seems like we're being asked a lot to approve additional funding for that. I haven't been on council the entirety of this project, but I'd like a little clarification. It seems that at some point we had a grant to do some work, and part of the grant was going to be used to pay for bathrooms for the park. And then now we have all the hill restructuring that we're doing. And are we using the grant money for that now? And have we taken a look at some of these extra costs related to the park, since we are having to do the hill restabilization, and looking at maybe, some of those things that are very expensive, like plumbing and bathroom services in a neighborhood park? I'm just curious if we've considered how we're restructuring some of that, or looking at different solutions, since we have all of these other issues that we're now having to pay for related to the park.
Are you asking about cutting some things from the project, or
Just
where
looking at the project as a whole, now that we know we have all of these other issues and all of this other money that we have to spend to solve those issues, and solving those issues is great, and I'm very happy that we're doing it. Putting in a neighborhood park is great, and I'm very happy that we're doing it. But the scope of this park, I'd like to maybe take a look at the scope now that we know we have all of this other expense related to hill restructuring. And are there items in that were considered for the park when we had more money at our disposal that we might need to consider cutting now that we're having to redirect some of that money to hill restabilization? And I could be off the mark here. Maybe some of that money is coming from somewhere else. Maybe these things are absolutely 100% required as part of other items related to the park. But has anything been considered? Have we relooked at the plan for this park since we've had to do all of the hill restabilization, and knowing what the costs of that are?
I think the short answer is yes. I mean, the additions have been unforeseen. The hillside, which is in the park, but a separate project, but in the park, so we're doing it all together because we can't do them separate. There's always things that could be cut, but we would need direction. Are we aiming for an amount or an area or things like that to kind of look at what are we trying to offset additional costs, or in short, there's always things it could be. Now, some of the stuff the playground's been purchased, the shelter, all of that has been purchased. So we get to parts where it can't be. But I think with direction, we can always look. I don't know if that helps, or the grant is maximized. We're going to take advantage of the grant no matter what.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, so for anybody who's watching, River Forest Park started out as something kind of small. Now it's something much larger, and it's something that we have to do with the hill restabilization of the neighborhoods and all. But it is, when you see the cost of this park on paper, there are reasons why it is this expensive. But I want to make sure that we are paying attention to all of the things that are expensive and trying to maximize our dollar for this park. And that's all I don't have any recommendations specifically, but just kind of, I want everyone in the community to understand that we're trying to be mindful of this, and it's up to the city staff and to help us understand where these costs are coming from, and that they are also being mindful of the costs related to this park.
Councilmember Clark.
I get it. Where it did start was building a park, but since there is a stormwater issue associated, and we all know the expense of stormwater and the infrastructure, and I think that's the piece that keeps getting directly associated with a park, is saying this park is becoming so expensive. The slide is the most expensive slide ever. Park equipment's already purchased. Everything's all laid out. It's really becoming, we fight really hard to think about getting single-family homes into North Kansas City. but I want you to envision keeping the single-family homes that we have in North Kansas City. And that's a part of what this expense is saying, if we don't want these homes to slide down the hillside at some point, because that's been ongoing, and we've known about it for about 20-plus years, and we're finally dealing with it. And this is just that example of cost of waiting, sadly. And I know that's not the perfect answer ever, because it's very painful to get on the weekly calls and get the updates and say like, oh, we found another thing. But a part of the grant too that made it expensive is with free money comes more check boxes and more due diligence and more things we have to go through as far as process. So yes, the grant was there and it was awesome and it was secured, but these are the things that we're just coming across where they are unforeseen, and it's not so much directly related to the park as much as hillside stabilization and taking care of the residents that are up above and making sure they have homes.
Yeah, the park, I'll get to you first. The park started out, as you say, it's kind of an ask from the community, can we put a park in here, a small playground? And so the council tasked our engineers with, hey, we got all this ground back here, can you go explore it and see what's there? And they came back with a number of different tiers, I would say, tier 1, 2, and 3, and believe it or not, like there was a much larger, grander piece. This is kind of that Goldilocks zone of the park where it's got some smaller facilities and a playground. And then at a certain point, and I can't put my finger on exactly when that was, it flipped from a park project to a hill stabilization project with a park at the base, based on cost structuring. And I see that like each time we get an ask, it's frustrating to see, okay, we're going to add another $20,000 to the bottom line. The ones coming in from the parks are kind of the park portion of it, or the smaller add-ons. The $20,000 here, there, it's the hill. They all do add up, absolutely. I think those are starting to, as we've gotten all the things ordered, purchased. This is one that like they were digging in a spot that they were supposed to be digging after multiple surveys and found something that wasn't supposed to be in the ground. And so the re-engineering of that and the redigging does cost money. These are things that kind of naturally happen as something goes on, but it's frustrating to get. It's absolutely, every time I see another 20,000 here or there. But the big jumps are coming from the hillside stabilization. We don't know and didn't know what we didn't know until we cut those trees down and found how much of those backyards were falling off. And I encourage anyone who looks at that cost and says, oh my gosh, go down and take a look. Go down to the end of 26, just off the hospital, and take a look at what we see there on the hillside. It is incumbent on us now that we see it, we got to fix it. And it's big dollars. But I understand what you're saying. Now that the hillside's gotten so expensive, do we find parts of the park that we haven't gone past the point of no return on? And if those exist, perhaps the Parks Board is looking at those. I don't know if it's just full steam ahead, but you're the one in all those meetings.
I mean, I wouldn't say we've identified like, okay, we're going to switch this for that at this point. I think, sure, it's something to consider, but I'm thinking like what, the overlook? I mean, the park equipment's already there. Maybe the overlook, it hasn't necessarily been built, but it's one of those where we'd have to communicate, okay, what all's been ordered, because realize these guys are on a timetable, and then they go, what's this? Because we already ordered that, and we got the check off of that, and so these things kind of happen when they happen. I'm sure we're willing to explore, but when it becomes, it's kind of like, what's the cutoff for us? When it becomes like put this off for now, it would be really helpful for the future. Anything in the future is going to cost more, period. So that's where we kind of hit this fine line of like, if we knew that this thing was $500,000 that we could just suddenly remove, that's just the overlook, then that's a no-brainer probably. But I think like most everything is cohesive together, that if we start to clip away, it's going to be like $5,000 here, yep, and like a little bit here, that it just becomes nominal compared to what we're facing and digging in the ground.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
To help me with some of this, and I don't necessarily expect any of this would be available tonight, but I would like to have some data on, I think we've had this in the past, but the numbers have been growing and projects change, but data on, one, the amount of grant we received, data on what we expect the cost for the park isolated from the levy retention to be, and then also, how much money we're putting into I said levy, I mean hillside stabilization piece. And just, I'm trying to visualize those as, I know they all fit together, but trying to wrap my head around the dollars for the two different pieces here.
Let Let Anthony and Kim correct me if I'm wrong, but the grant was 1.25 million. The park is 2.5 million, and then the hillside stabilization is 2.4.
Okay, so the hillside has
Yeah,
grown
is that-
almost to double the cost of the
4.9.
project here then?
4.9
So-
is the,
Okay, I do
Yeah.
appreciate knowing that.
Councilmember Bailey.
Just a point of clarification. I know we approved an amount over what we were directly aware of because we expected some more of these small things to crop up. Is this 22,000 still encompassed in that?
Yes, if you look at the memo, kind of, I've tried to be very clear about pretty much every expense that has been related to this particular project. Currently, with this addendum, we have $390,520.13 left in the budget allocation fund, and that includes with the latest budget amendment.
Excellent. Any further, yep, Councilmember Alvarez.
Right. The amount that you have left, is that for the park, the actual park, part of the grant? Is that,
It's part of the overall budget.
okay.
So we will be receiving $1.25 million back into this fund. So we can kind of get into that when we walk through the budget. So the grant funding was for specifically the park. We did address in our grant application that we knew of some erosion, and we had hoped that the project was going to address a lot of the erosion. I mean, Councilmember Clark said it perfectly. It was 10 times worse than we had ever envisioned. And a lot of that was we could not see it. We did not understand it till we got into it. We will be doing another tour probably in August, September, maybe not when it's 109. Several council members did go on the last tour so that you can visually see the erosion and the proximity to these homeowners. And I invite anyone to visit with the homeowners who live on that street. For decades, they talk to city council members and former mayors about their fear of their backyards literally falling off the hill. And that is where we are now. That is absolutely happening. So some of it is just addressing decades of resident concerns that nobody has taken action on, and we are taking action now, and it is quite costly.
I might just add to that what Kim was saying there, because this is city property. This has been the city's property since going back to like 1904 or something like that. And the tributary to Rock Creek is on our property, and it moves around and shifts and causes erosion, cuts into the hill. And like Kim was saying, and what Amy was saying, there's been a lot of talks throughout the decades about, hey, this is a problem, and not a lot of action. So getting into this park, getting into this property, which is ours to maintain, really, uncovered a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And as we get into it, there's a lot of stability concerns, a lot of questions about cutting very close to houses. This was pretty interesting to see, but again, expensive to address.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
I think it's just important to, I'll speak for myself here, but I don't think there's any intent to cut the funding to the hillside piece here. It's just questions on the park now that the cost of everything around it has grown so much.
And is that a city council decision, or is that a Parks Board decision, or is it both at this point?
We own the property, and this project has been funded out of the gaming fund primarily, as opposed, we will have some grant reimbursement that would go back into the gaming fund. Happy to bring forward kind of, here's what we've spent on each category. If that's helpful to kind of see, here's what the park, and again, the grant was really funded toward the playground. That was actually ARPA money. And we had utilized a lot of the information we'd received during COVID, specifically from Ward 4 residents who said, we have no park. There is no green space in our part of this community at all. And during COVID, we had to get in our car and drive to another part of the community. And the city has owned this area with plans. You can go back to the 1970s where the city has promised this park to Ward 4. I can absolutely share all of that documentation. Anybody who lives in Ward 4, They were very happy to share with us during the feasibility components about how they had lived there for 25 years and the city had promised this park, and they were wondering if they would ever see it in their lifetime.
What was the top line dollar on that bid and the $70,000?
$70,000.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of this is, lessons that we have all learned. And those of you who were on city council last time we did the strategic plan, lessons learned is time equals money.
Yep.
These problems do not go away by not addressing them. If anything, they get more complicated and more expensive as time drags on. You guys have inherited a mess from former people who sat in your chairs that didn't want to address it. I'll be very candid, that's kind of how we are where we are now.
Councilmember Clark.
I mean, I can't speak to, I was kind of mouthing to Victoria. We cut hot water. I mean, that was a thing we cut. We cut hot water. Well, keep in mind, Parks is trying to keep in their minds what the future costs look like. What does maintaining this park look like? And that's the things they're trying to get ahead of. That if you take one component out, they're going to go, great, now that's going to become maybe an issue later where there's going to be erosion where we had a stabilization in the lookout area or the hillslide or things like that, that affects the other pieces. That also affects how they maintain the park in the future. And so that's where we kind of get stuck of going, well, you can't just kind of exit off the drawing and say, don't order that, and we'll just hope for the best, because it is all a part of a conclusive design. I mean, that's why we hired the landscape architect firm to say, we're going to build something that interacts well with its environment. And this is how it's all going to have to play together. And what I don't want the message to be is that the park, that because the park was built, the hillside has an erosion. It's like, no, thanks to the park, we are focusing on this hillside erosion that has been avoided for years, for decades. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind. It doesn't make it more warm and fuzzy to think about spending the money, but that's truly the reality of the situation.
Well, and again, to echo Councilmember Fitzgerald's comments, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do any of this. I just want to understand, I want us all to understand that we have this erosion problem, we have to fix it, absolutely, but it started as a park, and now if there are things that we have to re-examine because we found these other issues that are mission critical and still keep the spirit of the original intent of the park, let's try to do that. Because going from $200 million for a park, or $2 million, for a park, to $4.5 million for hill stabilization and a park is a big jump. I mean, we are a community of 5,500 people, and these people constantly say things like, can we have, reduced water rates, and can we do things to help, other people in the community? And absolutely we need a park in Ward 4. They've been asking for it for a long time. And if it is what it is, then it is what it is. But I just want to call attention to, we are thinking about it, and we're talking about it, and we're trying to understand how we got to the place that we are right now with the budget.
Further comments from the council? Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, just one more quick question. Regardless of the park, it's still our responsibility to fix that property, correct? So regardless, okay.
Okay, we need a motion, I imagine, to approve this. Okay, do we have a motion on item 11?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving on to regular items. Crystal.
Item 13, North Kansas City Business Council request for fiscal year 2026 contract for services.
All right, Mike, are we calling up Rich? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rich Groves, Executive Director of the North Kansas City Business Council, and next month I'll be completing my 15th year in this role. And I brought with me tonight two of our board members on the executive committee, Matt Fritz, who's the treasurer, and he's also the CFO for the North Kansas City School District, and Jerry Hickey, who's our Business Council president this year and owner of 3 local Express Employment Professional franchises, and you heard from him a few weeks ago. And also, I brought the other two members of our staff tonight. I wanted to introduce them, Kevin Worley and Jennifer House. Jennifer House is our coordinator of member services and administration, and she's beginning her 4th year in on purpose part-time at 25 hours a week. So she takes care of all of our administrative tasks, particularly accounts payable and accounts receivable. She also keeps our chamber master database current, trying to keep up with all the businesses and representatives as they come and go. And she's also coordinates our ribbon cuttings and other activities that promote events for members. And Kevin joined our staff last year, about this time, as our first full-time salaried person other than myself. We had, in the past, we had a series of part-time people, didn't work out so well. His title is Assistant Director, and he's responsible for marketing and events and learning what's required of the job I have. They both, and so Kevin's expertise has made a huge impact on our effectiveness through social media and our printed materials, as well as through our email communications and our events. And they both have strong North Kansas City connections. Kevin is a proud Hornet, and he's also a graduate of the Missouri University School of Journalism, and he has many, we keep discovering every day, he has so many connections in North Kansas City. It's very helpful for what we do. And Jennifer has a son at North Kansas City High School in the IB program. So here's a brief reminder of what the North Kansas City Business Council is. Some of you have heard me more than once, and some of you haven't. I'll make it really brief. So it's a 501c6 nonprofit, member-based corporation, like a Chamber of Commerce. Our office is located at 405 East 19th Avenue behind Country Club Bank and First Watch. We're totally focused on North Kansas City businesses. Our bylaws require us to have, that members have to have a physical presence in North Kansas City. And you can thank one of your many years ago mayors who insisted that be part of the deal when this organization was put together. We have about 260 business members out of about 800 plus in North Kansas City. And our projected income for 2025 is about $220,000. Our goal each year is to at least break even, perhaps have a small reserve. And like any business, we want to have adequate cash flow, and we try to have a reserve of 4 to 6 months of fixed operating expenses. And our income comes from 3 sources. Membership dues is about 50% of the total. Net income after expenses from events, sponsorships, and advertising, approximately 1/4 of the total. And then the contract for services, which we're talking about tonight, is slightly under 1/4 of our total. More than half of our members are small enough or new enough that they qualify for the lowest level of membership dues. But thankfully, we have several larger businesses that are at the president level, and that would include NKC Health, Harris, Garney, which you heard from tonight, AdCap Partners, KMG Hotels, Indigix, and the City of North Kansas City. And we're very appreciative of all that support. What we do can be summarized in 3 words: inform, support, and connect. And some of what we do is member-focused, and some of what we do serves all the businesses of North Kansas City. And that's where this contract for services comes into play. All those things that we do that serve the entire business community. We inform in a variety of ways, lots of emails, social media. Hopefully you all see them, read them. Twice a year printed newsletters, business directory, website, and at our events we communicate in these various ways. And we support by trying to be informed about critical issues and be a resource for our members, and being able to guide them to somebody who can solve a problem. It could be Anthony, it could be the police department or the fire department, to help them know how to deal with some specific problems. And we help businesses connect, and also we help them support by giving them many opportunities to promote their own businesses. And we help them connect in several ways through our events, like the monthly luncheons, our First Friday Coffees, Northland Coffee Connect, which is an every week thing. And I know some of you have attended those, and I appreciate that. Hopefully, all of you will sample them. So in summary, the money from the contract covers expenses that enable us to serve all the businesses in North Kansas City, as well as our members. And I think you've seen, hopefully, the recent memo we sent to the city requesting a total of $50,000. For the last 5 years, we've asked for $30,000, and foolishly, only $30,000, because every year we've spent more than that, averaging more than $5,000 more than the city provided. And last year, we spent more than $10,000 more than we requested. So this year, we anticipate the expenses to be higher, one, because of generally rising costs, and secondly, because of, and I won't say it was a wonderful investment in Kevin. He's the first time we've had a salaried full-time employee other than me, and so that brought a higher level of salary than we previously had. But we think that's been money very well spent, and because in the past we tried to use part-time employees and it just was never very effective. I could go into the various components of that. It's in the letter there. Mayor, would you like for me to go through those details or skip through that?
Council has it in front of them. If they've got questions, they could ask you about it, I'd imagine.
A couple of things I would like to mention. One is I left one of these for each of you. Hopefully you already had a copy. If you have 2 copies now, share it with somebody else. But it's every place to eat, drink, and play in North Kansas City. We update it 2 or 3 times a year as the business inventory changes a little bit. And I want to also say that among the expenses we have are for Christmas trees. And some of Anthony's people help us every year with putting out the trees, putting the lights on the trees, putting them out, keeping them watered, and then taking them down a month later. So we really appreciate that. And I did include in there that at least 10% of our time is spent on these kind of activities. And so we've used an arbitrary number of 10% for that. And we expect to spend in the neighborhood of $51,000, but we're asking for $50,000. And one other comment I'd like to make, it's not quite related to this, but we're looking for ways to interact with the residents of North Kansas City. So one of the ways is, like tonight when Tom Roberts spoke and others representing the business community, try to educate a little bit about the kinds of businesses we have here. But we'd also entertain ideas like direct mail, if that would be appropriate at certain times. And another thing we're going to be really active with, and Kim is very involved with it, and so am I, is how can we best help our businesses during the World Cup time next June and July, when there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people in the Kansas City area, and how can we make sure we get more than our fair share here for our businesses? Be glad to entertain any questions if you have.
What questions do we have from the council? Councilmember Saper.
I've always supported the Business Council, and the work you're doing is very good. The question I have is, to what extent are other sponsors and members of the highest level contributing, and how does that compare with what you're asking from the city?
Well, I mentioned the president level members, and I mentioned there's about 8 of those, and those are paying membership dues of $3,000 compared to the $295 at the lowest level, which most of the other, more than half of the businesses do. We also ask for sponsor. So part of our income is the net income of our events less the expenses of the events. And so we try to optimize the net income from that, and with sponsorships and participation and ticket sales and things like that. We are now increasing our opportunities for advertising. You may have seen at the bottom of the last couple of emails that Kevin has sent out. two businesses are paying to be sponsors of those e-newsletters for a fee. Does that address what you're talking about?
I guess what I'm trying to sort of come to grips with is how much is the city contributing and what you're asking with this increase compared to what the other sources of revenue are. It seems that we're almost disproportionately asked to do more.
It was in the neighborhood of 25% of the total, as opposed to 50% approximately for membership dues and an additional 25 or so from the net income from all those other income sources.
Okay.
Further questions?
I just had a clarifying question. When you say that it's 25%, is that, is the 50 that you're asking for represent 25%, or does the
Yes.
30 we've been giving you?
The 50 would be, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So you said 220,000 in projected income. That includes 50 from the city?
That's the dues income plus other income, but the net income from our events, not the gross income from the events, but the net income from
And
the
does that include the city's sponsorship or the city's contract for services?
And that's a separate item. But the 220,000 is a part of that, yes.
Okay, and then what is your expense projection for the year?
About 220,000.
About 220.
We try to break even. Sometimes we are a little bit under, sometimes we're a little bit over. We want to make sure we have cash flow or reserves in case conditions get tougher, so that we'd have enough fixed income. But we don't have an abundance of that.
As far as the city's participation, so there's the contract for services. Do we also pay dues as a member?
Yes.
And at what level?
At the president level.
So we're at the 3,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I believe we pay for luncheons when we participate. We did the golf tournament, offering the tree support. The other part, there's a line item in here for FIFA 2026 support, and that points to the Go North efforts, which we're also, as a city, funding separately from the business council. So we're putting money toward that, from what I understood. And then this would also be another way that we're putting money toward it, just indirectly. I'm trying to wrap my head around the increase.
One thing we'll probably do is produce a whole lot more of these or something like this, and spread them as far as we can in hotels within 15 or 20 miles of here, and other ways that we can promote our local businesses for that.
I know this has come up over the years, and I'm not certain where the legality lands, but do other presidential level sponsors, the top level sponsors, they have seats on the board? How does that work? Because I know the city, we have a relationship, we don't have a seat on the board.
Yes, so some of the top level, it's not automatic, but Garney is on the board, NKC Health is on the board. Tom could tell you a very detailed story of why the city doesn't have representation on the board. It's not a decision we've made, but I think it's something that I think Tom has declared as.
You have clarity on the board situation? I know it's been asked a handful of times since I've been around.
I don't have that in front of, this has been over a number of years. I'll be glad to pull that back up. I do want to point out one thing, though. What we're talking about here is a contract for services and what the value of those services are, okay? Right. And so we can't it is illegal to make a contribution to them or any other charitable or whatever organization out there. It is absolutely against the state constitution to do that.
Sure.
Okay?
We're paying them for services
You're
rendered.
paying them what the value of those services are. And the services are what is spelled out in the contract.
Right.
So in that regard, perhaps I should have taken a little bit more time to talk about some of the things that we, like the business directory we send to every business out there, for the printed newsletter we send to every business. Our emails, most of them, except for the minutes or notes from the city council meeting, which we send to members only, everything else goes to all those other business representatives. Usually about 1,500 to 1,700 people get those emails. We get an open rate of something like 40%.
And so with the contract for services, the idea is that there's going to be a funding gap somewhere and that we need to help, or we are being asked to kind of help fill that difference by you guys providing services and value to us. The part that I have a hard time with, and I value the Business Council. I've been a big supporter, come to the board meetings when I can, is that without us having say in the hiring decisions, Kevin's brought a ton of value. You're right about that, but hiring him and then coming and having us fill the gap that was created when the additional salary came on, that's a tough one. And I don't know if it's partially because the ask doesn't line up with when the decision had to be rendered. But that created, it seems like the additional 15, or I guess it's 20,000 in this ask, largely is due to increase in payroll. Is that correct?
I probably wasn't wise to put it that way. I was trying to be very honest and candid about this, but I would assure you that we have gotten tremendously more value from Kevin being on our payroll and doing what he does. He is really good.
Sure. And I don't disagree at that. He's valuable. He does a great job on social media. I see more Business Council stuff popping up now than I ever have before. It's a tough one to parse. I know there's been a lot of back and forth over the 30 to 35,000 back when that was going on, and then jumping to 50 that's a pretty big move, especially when we're already trying to cure a budget deficit, which we'll see on the next item. And so I'm open to further council thoughts on this matter. Do we need to render it? Oh, yes, Councilmember McGrone.
So I was just curious, when was the last time you increased dues from members?
I'm sorry?
When was the last time you had a dues increase from members?
We did that about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and another thing we did about the same time. And then about 2 years ago, we addressed a whole bunch of what we call emerging businesses at the lowest level to say, you're really an established business. You shouldn't be at the 295 level. You should be at the 495 level. So we communicated that we believe that you are, in fact, an established business. We sent the invoices at the higher level, and we got virtually 100% positive response. We don't think right now is a good time to increase the dues, though. We are increasing a little bit the amount we're charging for luncheons for both members and non-members.
Councilmember Bailey?
I'm a big fan, Rich. You see me a lot at your meetings on Wednesday morning. Personally, though, I'm not a huge fan of the newsletter in comparison to the value that it costs. So it would be my question to anybody in the council seats is that something that's worth $10,000 to us if this is a payment for services?
That came up 2 years ago, I want to say, maybe 3. I side with you. Printed media misses me entirely. But I don't know that I'm the target market for that. But I do agree that I would shift away from print media in favor of more digital. We've had that discussion as well.
And so and as you know, we did reduce by half the number of. We did have quarterly printed newsletters. We went to 2. We would be open to considering even less, but we want to make sure as many people as possible are getting the messages we're trying to send out.
And to Kevin's, ability, I'd like to speak up that I know more about what the Business Council is doing now than I ever did before, even with the newsletters coming more often, is because I open it. I look at it in my email, and so I see it. I'm of the age where I do that more than some others. I know that, but you're coming to us with a $10,000 bill on it. So for what it's worth, I think we can shave off a big chunk of this addition by just striking that.
I'm seeing nods around the room. I would agree with that if the council, I know that's a fundamental shift in process. Is that something that the Business Council would be interested in, Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yeah, I might be in the minority here. It's a big increase percentage-wise from 30 to 50, but I'm fine to debate that. I personally don't want to get into a position where we're trying to tell the Business Council what they can and can't do. I think we just need to decide total funding dollar amount.
I sort of do it, but it is a contract for services. So we're deciding which services we do and don't want to pay for. They can continue to do it. wouldn't be something we're paying them to do as part of the value proposition. Okay. Further comments? Do we need to render a decision tonight on the increase? Feels like something that we can take some time to think through and make some marks on it. But to be clear, we do appreciate the services that are rendered, and I know that the business community, having sat in the meetings and spoken with them, they love what you're doing. So keep that up. We'll need some time to process also in light of the entire budget that we're about to go through here in the next.
And if you want me to, I can send you a copy of our planned budget, which actually shows a deficit of about $8,300 even in spite of this. So it's one of those years where we're going to be slightly under break even.
That'd be helpful.
If everything goes right.
Sure. All right. Anything else from the council? Appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 14 and why we're all here tonight.
Discussion of fiscal year 2026 preliminary budget.
Mike.
Right, Mayor and members of the council, the long-awaited moment of the evening. Should we propose a 5-minute break to stretch and use facilities if needed? Or no, I'm joking. As you said, we presented the budget or gave you, presented the copy at the last meeting. July 15th. With the thought of giving 3 weeks to go through it. The budget committee has gone through and submitted questions. I did include those in the memo to help, and hopefully that helps. If one has a question, sometimes others have the same question. So the goal was to get those out. Tonight we're going to kind of step through, or at least our plan, if council agrees, our plan is to kind of give an overview of this and then go through the departments, and they'll hit on their top 3-ish items in the budget. But the big part is council thoughts and questions and feedback. I will say, at the last meeting, I think we were around 2.5 general fund deficit. As of this meeting, we're at 1.35 or 3.6. I forget exactly, but everybody's worked really hard to identify places to help on both sides, revenue and expenditures. So I want to give that credit to all the departments, especially Nick. Yeah. So I'm going to jump in just a little bit. The primary goal of the budget is to ensure that we're using public funds wisely and effectively to meet the needs and priorities of the council and the community. In essence, it's about making sure that the city can continue to provide the essential services that the residents, businesses that we invest the necessary infrastructure and plan for a sustainable future. That's our goal when putting this together. Efficiency, effectiveness, responsiveness, and equity. So as I kind of mentioned last time, revenues, we're pushing revenues to what we're, for next year, to what we're seeing right now this year. We'll continue to watch that as we go through, up until the budget's finally approved. We'll on both revenues and expenditures. We're also pushing expenditures the same. We're looking at actuals, trying to get closer to actuals, what they have been. Now you will see in salaries, I'm going to pick on the police department. They have a lot of vacancies right now. We budget to be full. That's why there's, you'll see a difference in projected for the police versus budgeted. But it's, we budget to be full. Property tax, we're kind of limited on what we can do on property tax by the state. The Hancock Amendment limits how much increase can be for the levy. We expect the CPI this year from the state to be 2%. That's what we've budgeted. Sales tax, as I mentioned, we're budgeting what we're seeing in projections for this year. We're budgeting that for next year. And then surtax, our actuals have been coming in much higher, so we pushed surtax up as well as interest earnings. That has helped. Expenditure-wise, sorry, I want to move the mic. as I mentioned, we've approached this knowing we're trying to reduce deficits with long-term goal of balance, the structural balance in the funds. So departments have done a great job. They've streamlined the process. We've reduced, without reducing service levels or discounting the council goals. Water and sewer rates are budgeted at the recommended increases per the study and what we've looked at every year. Not above it, but not below. And I'm trying to think, I did include additions and deletions. It was a tab. It was from the last meeting. We, as we started making changes, we wanted to make note of it. So that was in the memo, like I said, as well as the questions. So as I said, tonight we're going to step through. Everybody kind of has their budgets to talk about. But we wanted to give you a high-level overview. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I'm not leaving anything out. So, revenues, we're 11.9% over 2025 budget, 2% over projected. Now, this does include 3 grants. Two are likely or confirmed. One is unknown until the start of the fiscal year. Anything that we have a grant for that's to cover an expenditure, if we don't get the grant, we won't do the expenditure, just so the council knows. All right, I'm going to step in, start with admin, unless there's any questions so far.
I don't know if this is better now or later on, but this is kind of an overarching question, so wanted to mention something before we get into the specific departments.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've sent you all a lot of questions already and a lot of responses, so I appreciate all of that. So when we look at the general fund, there's been some cuts there and honing in. We have a $1.4 million, call it, deficit. I think that's a lot smaller than we've seen in any recent years, so I appreciate all that. One item that's given me some pause is when I look at this as the whole budget for all the funds beyond the general fund we get in, Parks and Rec, gaming, water, community center, all that stuff in there. We're showing $72 million of revenue and $105 million of expenses for like a $33.4 million deficit. I think a lot of that is capital items that I'm not necessarily sure we'll even be able to get to in 26. Like if I look at fiscal year 25, there's a lot of capital items we budgeted and we didn't actually spend anywhere near that much, but like $33 million deficit is a lot.
We've talked about that a little bit about what we put in. And our approach has been, hey, here's all the things we need to do, that we throw it in. But we've also talked about, do we push some out, a year or two? And if we happen to get everything done that we budget for, then do we come back to council and say, hey, we're ahead of schedule, can we slide something forward? Or, a different approach that also looks different. So, I think everyone would be open to that if that's something that council would rather see that way, or...
Where are you seeing that deficit you just quoted?
This might be discussion for the group here, but my thought on this is, I look at capital items. We have $48 million worth of stuff budgeted in there for fiscal year 26. That's driving the vast majority of this deficit when we look at everything as a whole. I don't know it's necessarily realistic that we, one, can even afford to spend all that much money in the next year, but two, would have the capacity to do so if we had the money. Would it be too much of a lift to really hone that down for 26? What do we think we can afford and have the time to do, and the rest we push back to get closer to a, a balanced budget when we look at all of these funds in aggregate.
Yeah, I think we could do that, and we could probably do that and then get it to the committee before the next meeting, or even work. Is this what you're thinking? But yeah, it's absolutely possible. Okay. There are, as you've seen, there are some items that are pushed out, but yeah, it can be done.
Maybe that's didn't look as close in years past. I was going through this in a finer detail previously and started looking at top level today and just saw that huge deficit there. It's kind of alarming. Again, I don't think we're actually going to spend that much, but just seeing it on paper concerns me. I don't know that I feel comfortable approving that.
Yeah. Yeah, some of that is, as you can see in 25, we budgeted a lot and aren't going to spend that much. Some of it is, I'd say, spending down reserve that's built up, but there's still an obtainable amount, versus the whole thing. So
yeah, I want to say 25. This is just like some quick math, but it looked like maybe at $34 million of stuff capital budgeted and has spent a little over $6 million. So it's if we end up there again, I think the budget would be about balanced, and we're not looking at this huge deficit. It's just hard to parse out what do we think we're actually going to spend next year, going in.
Yeah, I mean, the big chunk of that, obviously we use the gaming fund for the big capital expenditures. So taking top-level gaming balance of almost $32 million now, plus 11 anticipated, and then spending 31, it drops the gaming balance quite a bit if we did everything this year. But that's what the gaming fund is for those big capital items. So it doesn't give me as much heartburn knowing the reserve we have in gaming, but I do appreciate that the operational side of the budget is getting much closer to balance. But yeah, taking a realistic look at what the capital projects that we can actually achieve, because we keep shoving stuff into, and we've had the mill demolition budgeted for 15 years or so, it seems. But we're actually making strides toward it. So those sorts of things, are they actually going to come to fruition, or do we have a better than likely chance?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have anything further on that one?
No, yeah, I'm just one out of,
No, it's a valid.
Voices up here tonight, but
valid question.
It's big. No, I get a little hesitant I said this, but a little hesitant to approve something that shows on paper that level of deficit, even if it's not realistic, in actuality.
One thing I noticed about it is you have contingencies wrapped into several, different departments have have their own contingencies. It was my intention, but I did not have the time to agglomerate all of them and go, okay, we budget X for contingencies. We use on a yearly basis, we use Y, which is rough percentage of that. And is that a relatively stable number, or can we kind of pull all the contingencies out and just leave it as its own separate thing? So that way we don't have to budget the full amount and just realistically go, okay, of what, on the worst year in the world could cost us X million, we're only going to use 1 million. I don't know if that would help us drive closer to a realistic flat budget.
Yeah, we could reduce them, but they're also separate funds with separate monies coming into them. That most of them we can't intermingle.
Gotcha.
So at least within the funds we have to have those amounts, but they could be reduced.
Okay.
But that's the reason the different funds have that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on a higher level, something that Mike pointed out that I kind of want to shine a light on is we did budget at full staffing for parks, full staffing for the police department. I sure as hope.
Library.
I hope, in the library. I hope we get there. I'd love to have a fully staffed police department. But if we don't, then we're going to be short of our expenses on the budget. So there's a natural deficit built there, or a natural savings built in if we don't get to full employment.
Right.
Is that a requirement that we budget at full staffing?
No, it's not a requirement, but kind of my philosophy is if you budget at 80% staffing, then you probably ought to cut. The goal is to hit full staffing, and they're going to do everything. I'm pointing to Kevin, picking on him. They're going to do everything they can to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not going to budget the full staffing, then in essence, it's being decided that you're not going to.
And I'd love to like ramp it up from wherever we are to full staffing, but I don't think we're going to flip the trigger and hire that many new officers all on the first day of the year.
Not with that attitude. No, I mean, budget's a statement of our goals, right? If our goal is full staffing, I think putting the number in there makes sense. While it does bloat the number, if we're driving toward that, we may as well have it in. I see what you're saying, that like, could we find a realistic smoothing of it? I think budget is really a statement of our goal for the year. See head nods.
Before I proceed, I meant to do it before I mentioned admin. Lori Mangan and Victoria are both here from the Library and Parks, and just to, if anyone has any questions for them, I'd let them know that I'd get to them early on.
You're not gonna make them sit through the rest of it? Come on now.
No, we're friends. I'd like to.
Very thoughtful of you.
Way. Yeah.
Councilmember Clark.
I think, again, just my overarching message is just if there's going to be anything anticipated in ordering for pumps or anything associated with gas or electricity or any utility tie of anything like lighting, I think library even experience, you guys got like 5,000 back last year for lighting. Those little things, I think if you can just train every department head to say, before we order anything, look for these particular benefits, so that's just a standard across the board of every department of whatever might be ordered, especially when it comes to any sort of replacement lighting, things like that. Because those are those easy grab dollars that start to add up and make a difference in buying new uniforms or something. I don't know. Everything costs a lot. But yeah, that would be my overall ask.
We make a note for like the purchasing policy or whatever that would, procurement. Make that a step one kind of item. Amy has asked for that literally every year and I forget every time. So thank you for putting that in front of us again. Okay, do we want to march forward bit by bit?
No questions for Library Parks?
I mean, do they?
have questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I had just two questions for Parks. They're both capital project requests. One, the Diamond One LED lighting project. Is the NKC school district helping out with that at all, or is that entirely us? Because I know we share that field with them.
That is entirely us.
Is there any chance that they would be willing to, I mean, they use that field at night probably more than we use that field at night?
Which they do pay annual rents on it, so we are collecting rent over the next 15 years.
Okay, excellent. And then the other thing was there's a $300,000 budget item for a parks maintenance building. Where would that be located?
So I'm not sure yet. So the board still has to approve the final budget. So these are some things that we'll be talking about at the next board meeting. So they might determine not to do it at this time, so I'm not.
So it's just for a building somewhere undetermined?
Right.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Have we had, now we do have a joint board meeting with the school board coming up to talk about life and love and the pursuit of happiness. Do we want to bring up the LEDs? Is that, we split the cost of the field, if I remember correctly. That was a park, city, and school district project. Would it make sense to have them involved?
No, I don't know necessarily, because we also, outside of the school district, we do a lot of other rentals to a lot of other entities.
Councilmember Clark.
I was going to say, and sitting in the meetings, I think the idea was, they sort of have the sole control and what is being purchased. It's not right to say that the school district's not pitching in, because they do, because it's obviously, it's kind of a paid for service because they're maintaining, saying, yeah, we want to keep using this field. And the idea is that we attract more people that say, oh, they have this whole lighting bit, and more capabilities at this particular field. It just makes it more of an attractive opportunity for people to come and utilize that field, and I think that's a part of it, is they would then sort of own that, run that, and then rent it all out. It becomes something that's rentable and good profit.
Cool. Shoot, I had something in there. Oh yeah, we got the TV in there. Parks has 60, city doesn't have anything yet. Are we gonna have more discussion on what that looks like at some point? Maybe a presentation of.
I would love to. That will come forward at another council meeting. Again, we've had actually other municipalities reach out about renting ours, but Parks budget is separate, so they have put in, hoping that we could have further conversations.
I mean, if we can buy it and figure out how Riverside's going to pay for it, I'm
Yes.
all in.
Yes.
Let's go.
All right.
Okay, any
Thank you.
further questions? Anything for the library? Need to pull, let me pull my list of questions really quick. I know you did, yeah. Thank you. They were not on the one that came through in the memo, but I have it in my email. Give me just a second. And thank you for that. I apologize for my 1 a.m. stream of consciousness questions to you. Yeah, so the building improvement piece, this has been just consistently a pretty high line item. It's an older building. Do we see us getting our arms around that, or is it just going to be expensive for a while?
So it was 600. We spent 147 to get new lights. We had an LED lighting project that we got done, and actually that we have some money in there for the masonry and tuck pointing repair, which actually has gone out to bid.
Hey.
It happened last Friday, so it should maybe happen this budget year. So it may not actually roll over into next budget year. It was just I didn't know that at the time when this budget was approved by the library board. So. That is in the works, so it'll either be this budget year or next budget year. So yeah, it should be.
It'll definitely roll a little bit. Yeah, just a lot of it. The bids will come in probably on the 28th of August, and because of timing of the holiday, because it's Labor Day right there, probably going to be the next council meeting. So September 16th, I think, is the council meeting where we probably have a contractor that we could bring forward to with the win bid, and then
Well, and it'll have to be, of course, approved by the library board as well. And then there's an issue with temperature, apparently, with masonry projects on the exterior. So hopefully it'll get done this
hopefully
year.
a lot of, yeah.
But if it gets too cold, then it'll have to wait till next budget year. So.
Right.
But it is in the works.
Very good. The last question for me is, I sent the one about staffing.
Yes.
How close are we to fully staffed at the library right now?
So we don't have a set number because we kind of maintain a flexibility with whether we have part-time or full-time. So we have a couple of vacancies for part-time, but we can combine those in different ways. So we're not seriously understaffed, but we could have more.
Okay. And it looked like, so we've got it right here in front of us. Actuals from 2023 were 368,000. Projected 26. This is 3-year change to 614. That's a big jump. Actual, it looks like 550 spent last year. So it seems like there's a decent delta there. Are we anticipating? I mean, is this salaries just having gone up?
Yeah, there was a big adjustment when the city did their salary adjustment stuff.
Plan,
We
yes.
did that as well. So that was kind of a jump there.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been, I think, 23 when we did that, right? Into 24, yeah.
January of 23 it took effect. The end of 22 was. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, that's all from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I will add, it dawned on me during that discussion that tonight, with approval of the consent agenda, you approved the first, actually the first project in the 26 capital. The CCTV van was originally in the 26 capital, but it got shifted. You know, we weren't going to do 25, so we'll take that out of the capital in the 26. But I guess, an attempt at humor. Congratulations on the first project of 26. It's not even here, and we're trying to go faster on those. Okay, back to admin. As I said, I'm going to touch on some of the things on that that really stand out. We cut, reduced travel and training for both. You know, there's an appointed account ID and there's an elected account ID for that. We took both down. Let's see, appointed 24.1 and then 26% for. We're just trying to find ways, looking at actuals that we could reduce. Public relations, you'll see an increase there. That in pretty much almost full part is the ward block parties. They were discussed back around the time of the apartments and then is there anything for them? And I think the idea came up of something for the apartments, but these are ward block parties that I think one a year, one per ward a year. And we put in, just to start out, 3,000 per ward. Now, we did reduce, where's it at? There's for lack of a better term, council member funds. It was 250 per council member. It really never got used to like have a coffee or anything. So we thought, okay, let's, in the ward being, it's for the whole ward, not just the apartments, but since apartments can't have that was at the block party. Since apartments can't really have block parties, it was finding a way to do something with that. So we have that in here. It's new. We don't have a policy or anything for it yet. We figure until it's approved, if it is approved and kept in here, then we'll work on that and figure all that out. But that's something new. That's an increase in the admin budget. And then, one of the bigger professional services we decreased by about 13,000. That mainly is a reduction in document scanning. That was working with Crystal. The amount wasn't needed for next year. Those are kind of the big items. On admin, if there's any questions on admin, I'm happy to try to answer them. If not, I'm going to hand off. Look to Kim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to kick it off with municipal court. There really isn't much substantial that is different from that, other than it has gone down by about a quarter of a position. We've had a really tough time recruiting that particular position. It's extremely part-time. So for the time being, we are looking to have that just taken over by overtime tasks with our current staff load. So that's kind of all that's in municipal court for this particular time. I will hand it over to Chief Williams for fire.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to cover mainly the questions that you guys had and your questioning that was sent out to us in my highlights. So we're going to cover salaries and benefits. The main thing in there is a SAFER grant for the 3 new firefighters. It's included in this. It will be taken out if we do not receive the grant. So just to let you know there. The other thing I want to cover in that is that Mike, Nick, and I all started looking at some numbers when it comes to overtime and out-of-title pay. So to describe out-of-title pay for you is that when an individual is off duty for vacation or sick time or anything like that, and they sit in a certain position, they need to be replaced by someone below them. Per the contract, they are paid 10% more for that day. The out-of-title was figured into the salaries before in some, I don't know what the formula was that Nick used, and he could expand on that more, but it was always figured into the salaries ahead of time, so that's where it was. We have decided to pull that out, and I will tell you that the number that's included in the budget is $400,000, but the actual $360,000 of that is their actual regular pay, which they would get anyway. It's only the 10, and the way ADP does things, this is the way we have to do it. So that's part of our payroll problem. So just to let you know, the actual cost for out-of-title is about $36,000 a year, or $36,000 to $40,000 a year. He's pulling out all the regular pay plus the out-of-title. On the other hand, the overtime was also included in regular salaries, and it was built into regular salaries every year. And so the overtime budget was fairly low, and when I took over, I started looking at that, and I'm like, there's no way. I know we have 5 times as much overtime as what is budgeted there. And so I really wanted to get a handle on how much overtime we were actually hiring. And so we pulled that out of there also. And so that's why those went up so much, was because of that. The training and travel, there was a question about, I understand, I know the last 2 years we've come up $20,000 short and using it all up. We plan for the ability to send 4 individuals to paramedic school every year. That is that extra $20,000. In the last 2 years, we've had 2 individuals attending at a time. Right now, we actually have 3 for the rest of this year, starting next year. But we try to include at least a place for 4 of them, which is a total of $36,000. It's $9,000 a person. So when I say 2, that makes up for that $18,000 that we're missing. I know there was a question about why we don't lower it. We could lower it, I guess, and come back for more to ask for that if we had more that wanted to go. But that's why we had those 2. The other one was professional services. One of the main things in professional services is the GEMT funding, which is Ground Emergency Medical Transfer, which is a Medicaid program that the state of Missouri pays back. We actually pay the state of Missouri money, and then they basically double it and pay it back to us. We have to include that amount in our budget as far as what we are paying for that. So the total is $250,000, and of that $250,000, $200,000 is our estimated cost for that, pretty much every year. So when we do that. And then the last thing would be a capital item. Somebody had a question about the training facility and what we do now. Currently, we have you have to have 2 live fire trainings every year. That's an NFPA regulation, and what is required throughout the country is to do 2 live fire trainings every year. With us, even with this training facility, we'll still have to go do 2 live fire trainings at either South Platte, Kansas City, or one of the others, because this plan at $750,000 a year is for what we call a coal fire training facility. It would be 3 stories high with movable walls, a way to train on everything but live fire. Currently, the only way we can train on anything but live fire is to acquire a home or a commercial property. With a home or commercial property, I think we get one about every 2 years. That leaves the engine room floor or the outside in the unrealistic situations. They don't bring that realistic quality of training that we need every day. A training facility would allow them to work on roofs, practice doing roof cutting, rescues, high-rise rescue stuff. Actually, we can simulate smoke, with a fire in the building. We can simulate smoke and make it so that we can black it out and do things like that. We also look forward to sharing it with the police department so that they can also use it for certain things in what they do. So that's what that is for. So, any questions?
Councilmember McGrone.
So on the training facility, is that $750,000 per year going forward?
No, that's the
Just
building.
once? Does that just cover the cost of the building, or does that include like maintenance over time? Does that include insurance? Does that include staffing? Are there any other costs associated with that facility outside of construction?
I do not see any staffing cost. I have not done any research into the maintenance cost.
Are there other facilities
The
like this in other
Yes.
areas that we could have access to?
2, you mean like every day?
Well, would you use this every day?
Yes. We would use this.
But right now, you're doing it every 1 to 2 years.
But yeah, and the problem is we're doing it every day on the engine room floor or out in the bay, or they train every day, but it's not realistic training. It's simulated training on the engine room floor.
So there's no
outside.
other costs associated with this other than the $750,000 one time for however long this facility would be in operation?
There would be maintenance cost on it.
Do we know what those ongoing
I have
costs would
not
be?
done that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Those are some of my questions. I'm the one that initially asked this. This is, I'm sorry to pick on this one. It's just the first bigger dollar item that came up. So I'm just, going back to, we currently have budgeted $48 million of capital items in 2026. We clearly could not afford to do all of those. It would be good, maybe better if, staff could take a pass at this before council does, because you all will know better. But if we could kind of prioritize to figure out what we can actually fund in 26 realistically, and, attempt to prioritize that as opposed to throwing all $48 million on here.
So to answer your question, I heard what you said earlier, and I made some notes, and that I don't see us starting this in 25, 26. I see we would need the money to plan. I would like to be able to plan for it and get everything in place and then start it in 27.
Okay, yeah, maybe this is like a philosophical discussion for how we approach the budget then, but, items like that, could we push back to 27 because we have this long-term capital plan and not show it in the, what we're budgeting for the next current year, because we're really only approving 1 year at a time?
Yeah, I would, like in that case, we would probably carve out what we need for planning, design and whatnot, and reduce that amount, and then throw a larger amount down the road. But yeah, and at the same time, reducing the cost.
I agree with that. There's a tendency from a departmental perspective to, if you want the thing to be done, you need to put it into the budget. Otherwise, it just gets looked past, and it probably has been looked past, because I know there's been requests for something like this for a long time, and it's been a long time coming. It's needed. I think
this
has
been in the budget for 5 years now.
Yep.
I think 4 or 5 years running between the Station 2 remodel and the training facility. And actually, we reduced it by $1.25 million because they were asking for a live fire training facility.
Right.
Yeah.
I think maybe adding the engineering cost into this year's budget is a thing like we can get going on, rather than having one that we might just be able to kick to the next year, the next, or the next. Having the engineering cost in will inform what that dollar is anyway. It'll help us understand the facility, the maintenance, all of that. So maybe that's the approach for 26, is to find that number and get that one into the budget so that we can move the ball forward, rather than it just being a perpetual evergreen item. Because I want this for your staff. I want them to be able to train on this. Help me understand the split between staff between Station 1 and 2.
The split between staff.
How many people are?
There are 4 people at Station 2, and the rest are at Station 1. I mean, per shift, there's 14. I mean, if everybody's there's 14. Normally, it's 11.
11
Station 1.
At Station 1 and 4 at 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all my questions for now. Linda.
Have you ever used any other training facilities with other, cities? I mean, have you shared any or in the past?
We have, so we're paying for the use of South Platte Fire Protection District. Theirs for the live fire training. We've done that for the last, I want to say 3 years. Don't quote me on that. Maybe closer to 5. We tried a contract with Kansas City, if I remember, about 10 years ago, and things went south real quick, or sour on that, and we have not gone back to the well on that one.
Is Platte the closest one other than Kansas?
Yeah. I mean, you got Excelsior Springs, South Platte. Liberty has one way out in the country up north there. So
yeah. Go ahead.
So if you were use someone else's, you'd have to schedule it and work around all that, right? So you wouldn't
pay overtime. We're out of the city. Your resources are out of the city. All of those things.
So not available for calls if
Yeah.
you're out of the city. And okay.
Yep. Councilmember Bailey.
If we put it in a cold facility, would anybody from around the metro come to us?
I doubt it. Everybody around us. Well, maybe Gladstone and Riverside. We have, discussed a little bit with them and using it, or maybe even sharing some costs, but I haven't gotten very far with that.
Are the other cities represented by the same fire union?
Yes.
You think they could facilitate some of that discussion?
No.
No?
No.
Maybe make a phone call. All right. Good questions, though. Further questions on that? Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to present some of our budget items. First and foremost, I want to thank a lot of the staff that helped us get to this point today. Major Bagley, Major Holm, Sergeant Basor, and Sergeant Kimmel is here tonight also. Collaborative effort on the police department side with putting this out and getting it in front of you. So talked about our staffing a little bit already. You're right, Councilmember Bailey, we're not going to snap our fingers and fill all those positions tomorrow. But we have realistic expectations that we hope to fill all of them by the end of this calendar year. So rolling into January 1, we hope to be fully staffed, hopes and wishes, you know how that goes, right? So some of the significant non-capital budgetary items that I was just going to draw your attention to. This year's our legal costs are down. That's just an element of us not having a collective bargaining agreement that we have to negotiate for the next 2 years. So we don't need the higher legal cost. And then our detention fees. If you remember from last year, we had a very significant increase in requests for our detention fees. We went up from, I think, $75,000 to $250 or something like that. That was in anticipation of the sheriff at Clay County raising municipal housing rates as of January 1st. That didn't happen, still hasn't happened. And so we've been able to reap some of that benefit. But the downside of that also is the sheriff's department's been closed to our municipal arrest more often than they've been open this year also. So we still this is a very moving target. When we do have a full month of a jail being open that we can send people to, we generally spend between $6,000 and $9,000 a month. When they're not open, we're not spending the money. So it's a hard target for us to hit, and it's been a moving target for a number of years because this has been ongoing since COVID. Not having the jail open during COVID, not having the jail open during reconstruction, not having the jail open during electrical problems, not having jail open during staffing issues. This is a problem for us, and we want to hold our criminals accountable by putting them in jail, and we want to be able to have that funded. So that's where that number's gone down significantly, just because the increase in daily housing rate did not take effect like we were told it was going to. Aside from that, pretty much, business as usual for the police department. A couple of the capital items that I'll draw your attention to, our street camera network. We've got upwards around, I think, 15 cameras around the city right now that the police department, lack of a better term, operates and pays attention to. High crash locations, high crime locations, you name it, is reasons why we have them in different places. Those are aging, and we have to start thinking about replacing those. They run out of warranty. I think Stephen can correct me from the back if he'd open a Diet Coke or something, but generally about 5 years is, I think, the warranty on those. Some of these are 20 years old. And so we're winging it with them. They're working, but they are going to start failing, so we want to plan for that. And then there are also some additional locations that we don't have good coverage at right now that we'd like to have coverage. So that's that long-term plan, that every other year plan that you talk about, but $20,000 a year every other year is what we're kind of thinking about for that replacement plan. And on the camera side of things, a lot of cool tools going into cameras right now with artificial intelligence and stuff like that we could take advantage of by replacing some of that technology. And then the portable cameras is another thing that we're talking about. You might have seen one that we were testing on Snake Saturday. We had it sitting at the intersection of Armour and Fayette. We had three. We acquired 3 portable cameras 20 plus years ago. Obviously, those are on life support right now as well. One is just out of service because we're using it to part out for the others. They run on gas diesel generators. Not very friendly for the environment. So again, technology's changed a ton, and the purchasing model's changed a lot with these things, where the companies have more gravitated to a lease model instead of a purchase model, meaning that as you're under contract with them, they cover all expenses, if it were to break, need to be replaced, get stolen, whatever, they take care of it. So those are the couple of the highlights. Obviously, I'll answer any questions about any of the other items that we have or any other projects.
I want to, oh, sorry, go ahead. No,
One quick question about the camera trailer. Does that $75,000, is that for one, or is that for multiple?
Two.
Two, and is that for a lease for a year, or is that for?
Yeah, $75,000 is to lease 2 units for a year.
Okay, thanks.
I was just going to point out on the building improvements line item, it's a big increase, but 50,000 of that is dependent on a state grant. So if the grant doesn't come through, 50 of that will go away, of which the grant right now is reflected in revenue. So it's an offsetting, but just.
Roger that. Similar to the police training piece, the animal control facility, is this a 2026 style of project that we're realistically thinking is going to get built?
Yeah. If you recall, we had budgeted funding this year for the study to determine what it would take to build a new facility. There was some jockeying around late last year to kind of move away from potentially a new facility and consider options for renovation or renovation of an existing space without building new construction. We didn't really get that off the ground. So I think this year can still be that year of still studying what can be done, what can be done with the facility we have, or do we need to really think about a different facility, whether it be existing construction or new construction. But that big piece of that $2.3 million that we have, technically I think still slated in this budget year, really should be pushed to 27 because we don't have the capacity to do that. We can get the study done and get the construction ideas in place through our architectural partners, but we won't be able to start turning dirt this year. I don't have the capacity for that. I just want to hire people.
Chop another 2.3 million out of the, hey, there you go.
I think a lot of that deficit's on paper. It's just kind of prioritizing so we all cohesively know as a plan what we're actually going to get done in 26, or at least attempt to get done. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, keep the mid and long-term capital projects on their separate docket, and then put if it's something we're looking to move forward with in the near term, putting the engineering and the planning dollars in there. I don't know what it costs at this point to identify spaces or evaluate the existing, but it's something that I know has been a priority of yours for a while. So
We can get an estimate on that easily in the next 2 weeks and.
Good deal.
On both and have those adjusted.
Cool. Sounds good.
And I will add another iteration of the training facility that Chief Williams talked about. We've been talking about that for 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been around a while. It's been a dream for a while.
I've been hearing about it ever since I came around. It just, Dan's bringing it home. He's making it happen.
He's gonna close the deal.
There you go. Yeah.
Speaking of closing the deal, I get to pass it off to Anthony now.
Thanks, Kevin. I'll try to stay brief on 5 different divisions here, so I'll just kind of skim the surface on each one. Public Works, starting with buildings and grounds, so not a lot of big changes to the non-capital budgetary items. One thing that kind of got brought up in the conversation here, I just want to touch on when we were talking about some funds that are higher but not get 100% used throughout the year. Some of those, like I'm looking at building maintenance, specifically in buildings and grounds, we reduced that by 31,000 down to 118,000 from where it was before. And a lot of that kind of comes from legacy things that have happened in the past. So there'll be, okay, oh gosh, this year we have a $50,000 budget thing that's happened and we got to do a big building improvement. And so the budget gets bumped up from budget amendments and different things like that, and then it kind of stays there. And then we kind of look at, projection of what kind of issues we have come up, and it kind of gets factored into that same thing. So there is kind of a contingency slash, anticipation of what could happen based on years past that hovers around there for a while, and then as time goes on, those can be decreased. So that's kind of just something in some of these budget items I've noticed that we did decrease this year throughout the operation budget, and also some of the capital lines kind of reflect those too. I think in 2019 there was a lot of huge storm water issues that happened, which raised a lot of concern about what we budget so we can move fast when things come up. But then, you have a lot of dry years, you don't have a lot of issues, and so, those things kind of hover down. But the ability to come back with budgetary amendments sometimes I think is important when thinking about those things and just the speed at which we can move. But sorry, that's kind of on a tangent here off buildings and grounds. But one of the bigger capital looks there in that division is to actually do a full facility study of the city buildings. We've kind of been through a lot of our underground infrastructure the last couple years. And so now we're looking at our vertical construction, our buildings, and the aging that's going on there, and kind of, again, to better understand building maintenance and a capital outlay in the future for those items. I'll jump over to transportation. One of the items that I can't speak to very heavily there is the KCATA budget. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
It's the current contract has, if it's renewed, a not to exceed 10%. So for this year's budget, I mean, we started out with the assumption it gets renewed and through in 10%. That's why that amount's there.
I personally, I would budget it flat year over year and see where we go. But we have next meeting, I believe we got our first chat with Bryce. Bryce is coming. I've been told, so very good. I would budget that flat. I would not add in the 10% increase.
All right.
That was a not to exceed. It wasn't a guaranteed.
Perfect.
Jumping back in. Oh, sorry. I don't want to.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
Operational budget there for transportation. We're looking really hard at our traffic signals and streetlight repair. That item keeps going up every year. We have more and more system failures with different aging infrastructure and computers that are very dated. We increased that to 10,000 this year, just kind of reflective of costs where we see things failing. We are working right now in this year's budget with Olson under our on-call engineering to do a kind of quick little study on all of our traffic signals. We own 12. I think there's 16 total. Some of them are actually owned by Evergy, which is a very legacy thing that we are one of like 4 cities that still do that. However, that does have its pros and cons, so there's a lot to talk about there. But the ones that we do own and take care of, we're looking at those in depth, and we're also, because of the citizen survey, the street lighting was one of the things that got brought up a lot, so we're kind of diving into the study on that as well.
Follow up on that one. Took a walk around last night, and it is really dark through those neighborhood streets. Like growth of trees around the lights. I don't know if the lights are a legacy brightness of some kind. Obviously, you don't want it to be daylight at night because then people can't sleep. But finding some way to make it not so dark through the neighborhood streets would be excellent. I think that's what we're getting at with the increased tree maintenance budget to get the limbs cut away. And I don't know if Evergy can be a partner on this, but
yeah, there's a lot to that. So yes, definitely cutting the trees back so that the lights can have their maximum benefit, but then also looking at the kinds of lights. So if you see a Cobra head light, the old, what you imagine when you see a street light, that kind of highway style, mostly in the avenues, West Avenues, those lights are owned by Evergy. We lease those from them. Okay. They kind of set the standard of what they have there. We're having Olson look at those through this study to kind of say, okay, well, is there heads we could swap out? What kind of lighting options are available? Do there need to be more of those that we lease through Evergy? Do we need to change the lighting pattern? Do we need to change the heads on them? There was a study done back in the early 2000s that kind of looked at that and kind of arrived at the same conclusion. Let's cut back trees. But then also looked at like decorative style street lights in the avenues. So there's a lot of things to play around with there that we're hoping to get out of that study.
Would that have to change the ownership structure? Like if we change the light out entirely, would we have to take ownership and then be responsible for all that?
It's a good question that we'd have to sit down with Evergy and look at. I mean, I think there might be a list of different heads they use. Obviously, they're not going to get outside of what they're used to maintaining probably, but probably sit down with Evergy to look at that, if that's what it comes to with the study.
Okay. Thank you.
Jump into water. So in the water budget, non-capital budgetary items, increase in testing fees. So with different federal regulations at PFAS, looking at that requires a lot more testing on our part to look at our water quality. And so that's a jump there. Chemicals, that's also just used to treat the water. Lime it has gone up. There's a $40,000 increase there. And then, of course, in the capital items, one of our water master plan is winding down. We had that at one of the previous council meetings. One of the biggest projects that we're looking at is the Burlington water main. Jumping to that is going to be a great thing to get going. That really upsizes the capacity going down to the PID, and then also just increasing circulation around the city. It's one of those items that have been in the works for a while. Needed some clarity on the cycle track, which I think we kind of got that sorted out. And so moving that project forward will be one of the bigger capital projects.
And that is one that is looking to break ground in the near future.
In the near future,
Yeah,
We
like
have to-
in the next budget year. So this isn't one that we would be looking to roll forward.
Ideally, yes. Yeah.
And this might be getting too deep in the weeds, but timing around 169 being closed and the World Cup, we had the discussion with MoDOT. I don't know if we've moved that ball forward, but like as quickly as we can get the pavement moving.
It is a big project. It's anticipated, excuse me, that it'd probably take a year to construct.
Right.
Excuse me. And then again, to kind of finish the design with its incorporation before in the cycle track, there has to be some kind of modifications to the design. And then the sizing. So what was kind of one thing that was nice is a little bit of the delay there figuring out our future was to actually give us time to study the size of the main, which was ultimately just planned as a replacement, but now being looked at as, hey, no, you need to almost double the size of that main to move that water around the city. So that needs to have a little bit of redesign to it. Going back to the budgeting philosophy, I think that's maybe something else we can look at. Just thinking out loud here with, if you have a $4 million water main, it can maybe half of that project be budgeted 1 year and then half, because you're going to kind of stair-step through that project. A year-long projects started in the middle of our fiscal year would actually dive into 27 as well. So that might be another opportunity to kind of.
And logistically, in the discussion with MoDOT, they talked about potentially phasing I think it was the east side first, south and east, and then it crosses and goes north and west.
Right.
Like that would be a good way to budget it. So maybe we lop half of it out of this year's, but I don't know.
Well, right. We can look at that.
We'll look at, yeah.
Sure.
Definitely look at that.
There you go.
Jumping into, sorry.
Another capital project, just was kind of curious about timing of, I think, half's in convention and tourism, but the other half is in transportation, is the downtown streetscape extensions north and south on a Swift. Is that something we think will happen in 26?
Definitely the design. I think we're already lining up to get that kicked off here come first the fiscal year. I will say that it's been, this only kind of came into play around April of this calendar year, that getting our on-call engineers like spooled up and get going has made it a lot easier to kind of start these projects. So anything design-wise, yeah, I really think we can move very fast because it kind of expedites the procurement policy or process of the whole thing. So definitely, yeah, with the design. Yeah, realistically, I mean, I think you could probably, again, it would probably be one that would split, start mid-fiscal year and probably go into the next one. These are smaller. They're not going to be as disruptive, I think, as the original downtown streetscape project. They're smaller blocks, so probably move a little bit faster. But yeah.
No, and then one other question I had on that is, the streetscape basically out here along Armour, continuing east of the part that's already been done. Sorry, is looking a little rough too. Where is that in the the list of stuff?
That's part of that. So we kind of, if you look at what was done back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we're kind of stepping through the same steps that they did back then. So Swift and Armour branching out to 16th Avenue up to 21st, and then over to Fayette, which is what we've accomplished so far. That was the first step. There's been a lot of ask for the improvements from the businesses on Swift. So going up from 21st, the businesses just right on the other side of the intersections at 18th, where it stopped. I said 16th earlier, but 18th and then 21st. They're like, wait, what about us? So I think that's kind of leading us towards designing those sections first, and then this would probably be the fourth section that would come into play as it goes down. A lot of the improvements that were really important, like ADA upgrades, those got accomplished through the Complete Streets project. So there's kind of a look at those items that were really outstanding, for that portion. But then, yeah, lighting upgrades, and then straight tree analysis would be part of the other part.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
This one, so we got $3.15 million in for basically to get it from 23rd up to 16th. So that whole scope. This is one of those legacy projects that predates pretty much any of us in the planning process. I don't think anyone, I don't know, Kim, you might have still been around at that point, but that's about it. On the staff of the city, maybe Tom too. But this might behoove taking a look at those specific street extensions and seeing, like, from 16th to 18th, is that still part of the downtown corridor as we perceive it now? Because downtown's different, it's moved around. Is 21st to 23rd, does it need to go back as pavers, which is a much higher expense than pouring concrete? Would it accomplish a similar goal with a much lower price tag? So those are the kind of questions I would have before, or as we're going through the planning process of these next phases. Like the parts we've done, that's very clearly downtown to me. But for the rest of the discussion, I don't know how much of a difference it saves not putting paver stones back, which degrade more quickly. Just stuff to look at as we go forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, that I think would be a great conversation to have, just because we are kind of following the legacy practice. I mean, the decorative street lights right now, the pavers, they go to 16th Avenue.
Right.
So that replacement, now some of those street lights, they have to be replaced because the aggregate's falling apart.
Yeah.
Interesting.
21st
construction poles, yeah.
Swift.
But yeah. So that, but as the rest of the amenities, and then also what style. I'll just say it: concrete's a lot easier and cheaper to maintain than pavers. So yeah, we should definitely look at.
Yeah, right now it's a tripping hazard all the way down from 21st to 23rd. Tough to walk on, tough to wheel on. Would certainly look at a smoother surface, whether that's pavers or concrete, is up for discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Stepping into, let's see, where was I? Water pollution control. Where we're going, lift station maintenance is up. Those are kind of, well, actually, there was no change there for lift station maintenance, but those are one of the items we are looking at capital-wise. The sanitary sewer master plan is almost complete, but we already are seeing kind of the bigger projects that are going to come out of that. In anticipation for that, you kind of see that reflected in the capital budget. Everything in North Kansas City is pumped. It's too flat to move by gravity. And we have two very large aging pumping stations that are going to require attention. Those design for those are projected in next year's capital budget. Again, with the on-call engineering, we definitely think we can get to those. But then the future outlying years will have the bigger expenses of actually replacing the stations. And then the last item in Public Works now is Community Center, which is kind of a newer item. I'll look over Mike a little bit here, but we are kind of, our in-house team with Dwayne Marusars, our municipal superintendent, and David Harris, the building official, we've been able to really identify a big list of capital and just ongoing operation improvements to the Y. And so some of those are definitely reflected and shown in the budget. And then I'll kind of let Mike finish.
Really, Anthony's hit on it all. The list is bigger than even what we have in the budget for next year, but we're chewing off, they've done a great job at prioritizing. You've seen, some of it come in front of you, the boilers and whatnot. They're continuing to work on that, but then for next year, we just kind of kept on the same path.
I've been excited that, again, with our on-call engineering that has subs for architects, we've been able to really get our head wrapped around and quickly, as fast as possible, procure and design things that are larger projects for the Y.
Very good. YMCA, not related to capital side, but the operational piece. Do I remember correctly? I saw $10,000 a month budgeted for the Healthy Citizens. Is that the number we have in there? We're already over that number and growing.
Yeah.
I circle back to the checks that I've asked about.
Yeah.
Is that happening where we can find out if we got dormant folks for the last 6 months?
I met with them last week, and they're sending me the information to be able to look at that.
Yeah, because 10 feels like it could be the equilibrium number. Once things level off, we figure out who we should be paying for.
Yeah, it's kind of the last 2 or so months, it's kind of leveled off right around that mark.
Okay. And checking for folks who no longer live in town. I don't know that they've been doing that, or I really don't know what's been checked on because we've kind of set the thing out and let it run. Mm-hmm. But I think now might be a good time as budgets being put together as a reason to ask.
Yep. All right. I believe Shu
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For Community Development Department, there's not a whole lot change in the personnel chart. We still have 6.5. We did have restructured our staffing over there. We changed one neighborhood service into a plan reviewer, and he was hired early in April this year. His name is Phil Boyd. He's doing a pretty good job so far. And moving forward, really you see the cost increase on the overall salary and the training travel under the operating. They're mostly caused by the grant that we have submitted along with the Texas A&M University for the NASA Heat Island study. So all those will be reimbursed as far as we know the grant has been secured. They will come in 3 years. So the first year, it will cover the salary and the travel and computers and all of that 100%. Moving forward to the capitalize, I do have a couple projects I want to highlight. One is our comprehensive plan update along with a parking study. This particular item has been out for we have released a request for qualifications, and the submittal due will be mid-August. We're very excited to see the submittals down the road. We have joined a good amount of interest, I believe. Moving forward, we might actually see this project kick off in this fiscal year. So that budgeted amount over there said it will probably roll forward to fiscal year 2026. And besides that, there is a town square project. I got a lot of questions. And in the Bounce and Balance event for Town Square, I just want to make sure you all are aware that we budgeted $3,000, but that $3,000 was because the city was notified that the funding application was selected and would be forwarded to the Missouri House Committee for allocation, and that is contingent upon a final award for this particular project. Yes, Mayor?
I might have bad news.
Oh.
Yeah, I got an email from Mr. Cleaver's office that they have bumped that number down to $250,000, and it is still pending approval. So
We'll make that adjustment.
Yep.
Tomorrow morning.
That's good
we
to know.
did get the ask in, and it was loudly denied.
Well, at least you'll see the deficit come down a little bit, probably.
There you go.
Thank you for the update.
Yep. I mean, so with Town Square, this has been, again, an evergreen project in the budget. I don't know that simply because the $3 million grant fell off the table that we abandoned the project. This is something that the community's asked for a very long time. I think we might take a minute to figure out what we might want to allocate there, but I would really like to see something moving in that direction. Now, it might require partnerships with local business or businesses around that, but I don't want to just quickly walk away from it simply because that grant was dismissed by the House.
Sure.
Councilmember Fisher.
Could we maybe get an agenda item on Town Square at a future meeting? I don't think I was even here when the last time we had like a full sit down on that, so I imagine there's probably at least half of us or more that
it's been a
aren't
while.
fully in the loop on that one.
It is that's some early action. We put a lot of stickers on a lot of boards for that place, and then nothing happened. So I think definitely get some discussion on it.
In the interest of the budget, we would throw it on the next agenda.
Yeah,
we can present what we have to date.
Yeah, maybe earmark 250 since that's what's left on the request, and then we'll talk about. I mean, we could dredge up some old plans for it and see what the numbers were proposed at. $3 million was more than we wanted to ask for. Like, we had a number in mind. I don't remember.
Right.
1.25 or something like that. And they just said, what about 3?
For this year, if it was selected, it was going to be 1.2. For next year, I mean, really, we're thinking 1.5 just because of unknown increased costs. And they said, how's 3?
Yeah.
Okay. But originally, I think it was 600,000.
Yeah.
Before Cleaver's, the first request to Cleaver came into play.
They gave us hope.
Yeah. So.
All right.
We'll bring the updates on that. And then the last one, of course, is the Perna Mill. We're hoping to be able to roll this project out for the next fiscal year at this point. And we budgeted 4.5. That's it for me. Open for questions.
Yeah. Any questions from the group? For those watching, the Purina Mill item has been on for as long as I've been alive, it feels like, and it is the mill that is on the opposite side of I-35. It's unsightly, covered in stuff, and it has rebar rusting and sticking out, so it's time for it to get knocked over. We'll be having those put out to bid. Do we have the timeline for the bid?
Yes, let me just say, doing a contract to bid this is a lot more difficult than maybe people might think. The liabilities of where it's located in the middle of a rail yard, access issues. But to answer the question directly, my goal is that it'll be up to bid by the end of next week.
Okay. Very good. It's better than the end of next year or decade. Love it. And yeah, it's not a fun thing to do. It's not something we're excited to spend potentially $4.5 million on, but the can has been kicked, and this is what we're anticipating the price to look like. Thank you.
Evening, Mayor and Council. We are on EcoDevo. Actually, this entire budget has been brought back closer to actual. So this is kind of when we are having economic development activities that is not fund related, meaning it's not Northgate or One North. Some of this was a little high because we didn't really know what that was going to look like this particular year. We did, when we get to the One North, we'll kind of talk about what that budget looks like. But happy to answer any questions. Like I said, what we've tried to do in this fund was bring it to actual and allow us to be able to pursue some opportunities for next calendar year or next fiscal year.
Economic development, is that a spot that if we were to decide to contribute to the Workforce Development Center, would that be a place that it would fit? Or where would that line item go?
I do believe that, yeah, it would be reflected in here. It'd be a transfer from gaming into this fund, and then it would come from this fund. That way, when the audit comes back, it shows more closely to actual goals, meaning form is following function by doing it that way.
Correct. And is there a time, do we want to have another discussion among ourselves at the dais about what that number should be? So eventually we got to put a plug figure in there, a number that we're comfortable with. And we've had, other than a presentation, no discussion beyond that. But now seems to be the time to get it into a budget. Does anyone have thoughts? First off, is this something that we want to contribute toward as a group? Okay, I agree. The number I've written down is $50,000. I don't know that's a shot in the dark. Every other city has followed a 25 and then some zeros behind it metric. I think we can go off of that. And 50,000 is the number I've got. I think Rivers
250.
Riverside's 250. Yeah. Riverside's mayor is deeply involved. Yeah.
Do we know how much is needed to finish?
Millions. So it was originally a 65 million project, and it was going to go up to 72. I think was the number but they're rolling pavement. They're making it happen. Kansas City is funding a big chunk. I think 25 million is coming from Kansas City, and then other sponsors. They're out raising funds.
I think the state's going to match half.
Yeah.
But they have to raise that half.
Yeah. And where like
at 36 or yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any world where we fill the funding gap, but putting some money on the table is better than nothing. 50, okay. Any other thoughts? With a budget deficit running much more than that, I mean, there'll be more chances to contribute.
So,
do we want to put 50 in to economic development? Okay, nods, or grimaces. Hand shrugs. Okay, 50.
Our goal would be, I think, like you said, transfer money in, or maybe it was transfer money in from gaming. But this is the place it should be. It just, and Nick and I have talked, would create a line, an account ID, much like the North Kansas City Business Council support, be workforce development. Now, it's not going to be their full name, but just workforce development, because that is
what we're doing.
still something, yeah.
Perfect.
50,000, nope.
Councilman Fitzgerald.
Just pretty minor, but caught my eye in this fund. What's the business forums? It looks like every year we budget 10,000 and never have any actual spending going back to 2023.
What that is for is printing. A lot of that would be printing. Should the city attend a conference, host a interested business? We have done several business tours here. It has not gotten to a position where we needed printed collateral, but sometimes, often when you are entertaining or trying to get a new corporate entity to move to town, oftentimes they are looking for more slick marketing materials. So that's what that would be for. Some of the conversations that we hope to have this coming year, I hope to have the need for that. We are, again, one of the things that the city is working on is the Oracle campus. That would be an area of which that I would like to have some nicer materials to be able to try to get that particular campus occupied.
All right. Is that all she wrote? All right. For the, yeah. And
No.
move to adjourn. Yeah.
What's not, yeah, interdepartmental, Nick's gonna handle that one.
Interdepartmental, and then the rest of the funds that we're going to talk about are all generally non-personnel related funds. Interdepartmental is budgeted in the general fund, and it covers expenses that are shared by multiple departments. So for City Hall and the police building and fire stations, we pay the utility fees for electric and gas from this fund. Those have been adjusted to match actuals. We have things like our tuition assistance program that comes from here, our employee wellness program, and then also like software maintenance agreements. A lot of these line items are also citywide initiatives as well, so we do share some of that cost with the other funds that have personnel in them. Some of the other things that have been added in recent years, the other services line item, that is where we have put cold weather assistance. This line says for citywide training and cold weather service, but the majority of those funds have gone towards cold weather service over the last few years. Other things that are budgeted in here are our general liability insurance. That is up based on estimates from our broker, up 16%, and that's probably, I think, the 5th or 6th year in a row that those have gone up by double-digit percentages. So a big chunk of that is included in interdepartmental, but is also dispersed throughout multiple departments. And then overall, it's only up 0.5%. Again, this services multiple different departments and is spread across multiple funds as well. I believe the next fund that we're going to talk about, unless we have any questions, would be Convention and Tourism.
So hi, I'll take the next three. Try to move quickly, happy to answer any questions. Convention is one that we've talked about previously. Pretty much the largest change in this particular fund would be FIFA. We do anticipate having several more workshops with the City Council as to what the street festival would look like, partnering with Northland Festivals, and kind of what that event would look like here in North Kansas City and how we can position ourselves to be able to allow our local businesses to be able to be in a great position for that particular event. The other part of it, we tried to budget more to actual, so hopefully you kind of see those line items reflected in what is presented for you this evening. I'm going to kind of roll into Northgate Village. One of the large homework items for this particular fund is to redo the TIF plan. So now that the majority of Northgate Village is fully built out, the projected TIF plan, which is a legal requirement to allow the public to be able to see how those public dollars are being utilized within that area, They are off, because again, just like any budget, it's a guess of what those revenues would look like. Because this particular TIF expires at the end of 2032, the city has still several more years of stewardship. We do anticipate doing one more TIF plan amendment, and then it should be set, and then the next step would be to officially retire it in 2032. Like I said, happy to answer any questions you may have for this particular fund. One North, we do anticipate a lot of work on this particular fund. One of the staff comments, I'll just go ahead and do it now, that way we're getting it over with. We have received 7 proposals as part of our RFP. Because that is a fund that normally we would be partnering with a developer to do and have them help pay for the financial due diligence, that's actually a burden on the city since it is a city-led development. So that is why you are seeing a considerable amount of professional services being proposed in this particular fund. One of the other things that needs to happen is we have a lot of untangling to do in our finance plan as well as our TIF plan for the One North. Some of the things that we had talked to the governing body before is also introducing an admin fee as this particular fund matures and we have new revenues and new partnerships. One of the things that this One North TIF has never envisioned is an admin fund to help offset the city's hard costs as we maintain this fund for many, many years moving forward. Again, those things are allowable within the state statutes. It is something that staff would recommend is to institute an admin fee to, again, help offset the city's stewardship costs in the years moving forward. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
On this one, property taxes projected for this year is 1.2 million versus budgeted next year 350,000. What's going on with that?
I can answer that one. So pretty much everything that comes into this fund is a redirect. So these would be pilot payments. I think overall we've had a lot of questions on the admin fee side, so I've hesitated making changes to the overall budget. But working with our municipal advisor to just basically overhaul this budget now that it's more within our control. Again, pretty much every revenue source on here is a redirect of some kind. So the franchise tax is the 2 hotels in there. The revenue that we get from the transient guest tax gets redirected towards bond payments. Sales taxes are redirects to specific projects, and as Kim kind of mentioned, like with the admin fee, there are several different individual projects within this fund. So trying to figure out, some of those are eligible and we could do an admin fee on some of the existing ones. Others are more closed off and are specifically for bond payments. The sales tax redirects could be eligible for the admin fees. But the property and franchise taxes are both just strict redirects towards bond payments.
Last one, communications. This is Link City, our contract with NOCX to operate and maintain Link City. Really, the big change in there is you'll see in operating expense, we're up 350,000. That's the fiber infrastructure audit. In the past, we'd thrown 50,000 in there, but found out that this is more at the level of one of the master plans or the comp plan. From as far as the engineering, the work that would go into it. That's why we've increased that. We're still waiting, but we have one of our on-call engineers working on a task order. So we'll know this amount hopefully sooner than later. But that's why that increase.
So once we know the amount, we can adjust the budget accordingly.
Do we need to add anything in here for apartments?
No. Where'd we take it? We got that covered. I think it's already in here.
Okay.
I'd say, but
Yeah, the pilot program is in there. What we're hoping to do is roll that out, do some lessons learned, and then adjust if necessary.
Okay.
Where is that housed in the budget?
It's gonna be, I gotta think back to where we put it. It's gotta be in the operating expense part of that number.
Got it. Yeah, just making sure that's accounted for somewhere, because it is something that's
it
a
is.
priority.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's it from us. I have notes that I'll put together tomorrow morning and send out to the committee to get the take on that. And
very good.
So the next step would be the next meeting, come back with all of these changes. Really, we can't really approve everything formally until we get the numbers from the county, and that's, I mean, we'd be lucky to have it the first meeting in September. But I mean, we can have everything packaged up and ready to go. But so we'll bring this back in the next meeting. Really, I'd probably just we made the changes. Any comments, kind of thing.
Very good.
All right.
All right.
Thank
And
you all.
Hey, if you're watching at home and you're
Oh.
still watching, send us your questions. This is your next shot at it.
And I will continue with the add delete tab. You know, especially with us looking at capital and the changes in here, just so you can see the changes as they progress.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Awesome. All right. Thank you again. Thank you, Mike, Nick, all the departments. I know every time I come through City Hall, he's got somebody in his office. He's yelling at him about the budget. So, you know, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on these pages we've got. Really do appreciate everyone working hard to find some efficiencies in your departments. Right. Item 15.
Discussion regarding updates of Chapter 13.08 Sewer Service System.
Beautiful.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So yeah, after that, let's start at 1912 and just take about an hour here to work towards. So this item, as it says, is a start to look at a process of updating our sewer use ordinance. A lot of this revolves around our pre-treatment process, our pre-treatment program, I should say, which is a very unique program that cities have when they have a very large industrial land use. It's a very complex program that I was not familiar with as a civil engineer. Very interesting. Learned a lot coming here. You know, a lot of it I'm just going to summarize as basically calling it the sewer police. You know, pre-treatment is basically, if you think about it, it's like your dishwasher, right? So before you put that dish in the dishwasher and it has a lot of food on it, you're going to pre-rinse it. So we work with the larger industries that deal with certain kind of compounds in the city to make sure that these things are not ending up in the sewer, where when they eventually end up at the treatment plant in Kansas City, they cannot process it, or it can cause damage to that treatment plant, or even cause damage to the pipe along the way. As the sewer police, we get audited by the EPA and DNR from time to time, and as historically, we have not been policing as diligently as we need to. So we get, you know, different audits that come back with different reports that say, you know, hey, we need to kind of look at this closer. And so starting last year, about 8 months ago, we reached out to one of our on-call engineers, Burns and McDonald, who subcontracts with a local firm, Kim Heck, which specializes in this very thing. So they've been helping us look at our program, revitalize things, renew, just kind of change our forms, go through the whole process. And one of the things is looking at our entire sewer use ordinance. So a lot of the red lines you see here in the packet, that's all Kim Heck's notes, looking at this, comparing that to best practices, comparing that to our EPA audits that show, you know, improvements where they're needed, and also looking at our agreements and relationship with Kansas City. So again, you know, the sewer is not treated here; it goes to Kansas City, and we have different things that we need to make sure that Kansas City system can handle as well. There's been an increase in sulfates over the last 20 years that is causing Kansas City quite a problem. They changed their sewer ordinance to reflect that. There's different, again, chemicals and compounds that they limit. We, in our code of ordinances, we update ours to reflect theirs, sulfates being one of those newer ones. So this looks at that. This also looks at a fat oils and grease program, which historically the city has not had. That program would have to be developed, but this kind of helps us implement the foundation level changes to our ordinance to start to make that kind of program. Those kind of things can be very detrimental. They cause clogs in the system. locally here and in Kansas City and cause our businesses issues when they come up. So this is, again, kind of a comprehensive re-looking at this. This program, again, is governed by DNR and ultimately the EPA. So when we propose a very large change, it has to be approved by them. So this is kind of a bringing forward of the changes that Kim Heck has looked at and recommended to kind of get a nod from council to go ahead and send that to DNR for their review. Again, they kind of look back to make sure the governing body of a entity has looked at this and approved that that step can be taken. So this is the start, and there'll be definitely more to come on this as time goes on, but we want to get this process started and get this in front of everybody.
Appreciate you bringing this forward, and I am in favor of what's going on here, increasing rates as not just a deterrent, but to recoup costs of managing and mitigating and monitoring. Curious, as you mentioned the sewer police, is there some way, like if we do put this in place, that we're going to be monitoring their discharge for these levels that we've been charging them for?
We already do.
Okay.
And so the larger sewer users, and there's 7 of them specifically that have permits through us and limit what they can put into the sewer. That's been the program since 1987,
okay.
I think it is. The program really hasn't been overhauled since like 97. So again, there's a lot of updates that need to happen, and this is kind of the start of that. But it already builds on processes we already do. There's an enforcement plan that we have that looks at how we work with businesses here. We've been working with one of our largest one for like the last 8 months, trying to get their program changed. Again, they're causing Kansas City quite an issue with their discharge. And so this just kind of builds on that. So it's not really a new, some of the steps are new, like the fat, oil, and grease. That's something, again, we need to implement. Also the administration fee, that's a concept that we may, get into. But a lot of the more detailed things that DNR is going to pay attention to come with looking at the local limits, as it's called in the permit.
Right, and I guess what I'm getting at is there going to be cost to us to set up like the fat, oil, and grease piece? Like, if we're not already monitoring that, is there cost for us to set up that monitoring?
We have a water pollution control division already. That's WPC.
Yep.
So there's 2 lab techs and a pretreatment coordinator in that division that this would kind of morph into their use. So I wouldn't anticipate a big operational cost. There might be a upfront capital cost to maybe get a program developed, a plan implemented, but then operational, I think, I'm going to say this now, but then we probably regret it later, but we have a pollution control division that could probably integrate this into their operations.
Councilmember Saper?
Throughout the document, it keeps referring to the director having this authority to make this decision, waiver, whatever. Would that be person holding your position, or would that be a new spot that would be created?
No, that's me. No, that's the public works director is in the sewer ordinance.
Okay.
That's, or my designee. So again, a lot of this, I'm going to say like 10% of this document is just general sewer use in the city, and then the other 90% is for the industrial users. The pre-treatment program has a coordinator. That's David Wendt in our division. And he implements this program. He goes to the businesses daily, checks sensors that we have in the sewers that monitor for these limits, and works with them on testing throughout the year for these things. So I basically designate him as my designee for that program.
Okay.
But then, when it refers to the director, again, some of these things are minor changes, but I don't have the power state or federally to change the sewer use ordinance by itself.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bailey?
And I know where the sulfate issue is coming from, but is there going to be practical, matters for the fat, oil, and grease? Is this our restaurants, or is this something else?
Mainly restaurants, yeah. We have certain hotspots that we know of that throughout time our water and sewer division, they make sure they jet, and we work with our shoes division, code enforcement to make sure that their grease interceptors in restaurants are up to date. But this would kind of maybe solidify that. Again, it's not historically has been in code, so.
Okay. Is it something that they kind of are aware of, or is this going to come as a complete surprise for them?
I think, again, we've already worked with them in the past. The ones that have reoccurring issues, I think they know who they are.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Further questions? Excellent discussion. Do we need direction of some kind?
Yes. MDNR requires that you,
You got some language for me to read?
yeah, there's this part right here. The proposed changes that have been before you have been reviewed by you as the governing body, and you endorse those changes.
So we need a motion to
Yeah,
endorse the
if
changes?
someone would say so moved,
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Very good.
is that what you needed, right?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right,
Sorry, I'm going to be annoying.
go ahead.
I'm just so curious now that I'm hearing that. When we approve businesses that go in or apply to be a part of our community,
Mhm.
we're not evaluating how they might affect our sewer system or the chemicals they might be adding into our infrastructure. We do evaluate that.
Absolutely. That's,
Okay.
that's step one. So
I got
we
real
look-
scared there for
No,
a
yeah,
second.
no, we look
But-
through community development and the business licensing to kind of understand what they are. Sometimes the name gives it away. You know, if the word chemicals in your name,
Leech
probably
on
you're
us.
going to pique our interest. But then also, again, one of the things that we haven't been doing well since '97 has been doing community surveys. So recently we sent out, I think, 90-ish surveys to different entities to see exactly what they do, how they do their processes. And so that's going to happen more on a frequent basis.
So self-reporting.
Yeah, self-reporting, once they're identified, they self-report on a yearly basis. I think they test twice a year. And then we have our regular monitoring that we do throughout the year to them. But then, yeah, so ones that we pop up and we need to maybe kind of investigate further, we send surveys to that basically say, what chemicals do you use? How often do you flush certain systems? And that kind of starts that process.
Sure. Thanks.
All right, moving on to item number 16.
Consideration of an ordinance regarding conflict of interest disclosure law for political subdivisions. Bill number 7930, ordinance number 9727.
Anybody got this one?
Do you want me to? This is what we have to do annually for the,
Yeah.
for the Missouri Ethics
Yeah.
Commission. And, well, actually, we do it every 2
Every
years.
other year, yep.
Yeah.
This is just
what
dealing,
lets you all fill out the short,
short form.
personal financial disclosure instead of the 15-page one that Jesse did one year.
Yes, so yeah, thank you for that. So this is the disclosure of business between governing body or senior staff members and the city, or a controlling interest in a business, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so we're just approving or setting forth an ordinance that would allow us to continue with the same thing we do. All right. Motions?
First reading.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials.
I move that bill number 7930 be placed on second and final reading. Passes ordinance number 9727.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain municipal officials.
Item number 17.
Consideration of an ordinance approving accounts due and payable by the city through August 1st, 2025. Bill number 7931, ordinance number 9728.
So move.
First reading.
Second.
First reading?
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 1st, 2025.
Lindsay, anything stand out to you this time around? Councilmember McGrone.
That's funny.
Dr. McGrone.
I not on a quick look, but Yeah, I think I'm all right this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
I don't see anything weird being tagged for first aid supplies, so I think we're all right.
I move that bill number 7931 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9728.
Second. Call the roll.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 1st, 2025.
Staff comments.
We have one comment tonight, or at least one person making comment tonight, Chief Freeman. We'll take the opportunity, though, as you said, but to thank the department heads for everything they put in. I know we still have work to do, and to thank all of you for sitting through tonight with us, but for reviewing it and have the questions. That whole list of questions was wonderful. It was a great exercise in my knowledge, too, that Thursday night. So, again, I'll hand it over to Chief Freeman. Thank you.
Thank you. Super quick, just a reminder, everybody, this Friday night is National Night Out at Mackin Park, 4:30 to 7 o'clock. Last year was our first year participating in this community event, so it was a resounding success last year, so we're looking to pull in more this year. Demonstrations from our tactical team on some of our tools, training, K9, may or may not be an appearance from Kansas City, Missouri's helicopter again, we'll see. So invite everybody to come out and enjoy. And there'll be a car show, cruise night kind of thing also. So.
Very good. Any further staff comments? Anthony? No? All right. Council member comments, starting with Council Member Bailey.
I'd like to really show my appreciation for Aaron Hall for coming out. This is what city government is about, is someone seeing a problem, not that necessarily is directly their responsibility, but doing some research, doing some work, and teeing it up for people to do everything we can to fix the problem. So thank you to her for being proactive.
Dr. McGrone?
I want to thank everybody for a really good discussion on budget. I know it's a very exciting topic for all of us. And also for bearing with me on my questions about River Forest Park and the funding for it. Again, I am completely in favor of all of this. I just want to make sure I understand like what is going on. So the other thing is I received feedback from some residents who live on 32nd Avenue asking if there were any traffic calming options to curb speeding along that road. I don't know who controls that road or what options we might have, but it is a little bit of a speedway. I've ridden my bike on that road a few times and walked along that road, and people do kind of go pretty fast in between the park and the dog park. And so once they get to the dog park, there's a little bit of slowing, but the rest of it's a little hectic. So if you can look into that. Thanks.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Just thank you to everyone on city staff. I know, I sent over a lot of budget questions. Other people did too. I know it's a lot of work goes into that, but I appreciate seeing it. I think it puts us in a good place for going forward.
Good. Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, just also want to thank Erin Hall, who came out with Northtown Auto Clinic. She brought up a good point with the intersection of 210 and Taney. I think that's something we probably should look at. Also, congratulations to Valerie Sweargen for her work on the Historical Society and being honored for that. I do want to say I agree with Councilman McGrone regarding the River Forest Park. There have been many questions asked about it, so I think it's good to bring it up, but I do think it's something that we need to keep moving forward with because it's our responsibility, due diligence, to take care of that property and the residents that have been affected by it. Another thing, we did have another Yard of the Month for Ward 3. Congratulations to Kent. He lives at 1400 East 21st Avenue. Apparently, he's a newer resident. He just moved in September. So I got to talk with him for a little bit, and he was very excited. So apparently he's done a lot of work on that house. So didn't know him before, but it's a good way to meet people. Also another reminder for the National Night Out Friday night, so hope to see people out. Hope the weather stays good for all of us to get out and about. And that's it.
Councilmember Clark.
Get my names correct over here. I'm gonna flub them anyway. But thanks to Tom coming out. I loved hearing about the expansions, but also more notably the greenhouse and how local businesses are pitching in. I want more of that. If we can identify those opportunities where local businesses can pitch in and kind of say, let's get you the materials you need. I love hearing that. So thank you to them. Aaron Hall, Northtown Auto Clinic. I take my car there. I hope I don't have to take it there for that reason. But I've experienced that many times, the whole crossover. I look at people like, do you not see me turning? And yeah. Valerie Hansen, well-deserved honor. Thanks for coming out tonight. And you're gone now, but maybe you just look back at this and go, shout out. Budgeting season is fun and awful, and it's not lost on this at this time of year. Department heads are just filled with, I don't know, the task of anticipation. Like, what do you anticipate is going to happen, and what do you anticipate you're going to need? And also, what's your wish list, which we've just ixnayed. We're like, no wish list this year. So I do appreciate everybody's efforts on that because I know it's not fun. And I just want to remind everybody that $4.5 million demolition cost is more than the cost of a park and hillside erosion. I'm just letting you know. And thanks.
All right. Councilmember Salinas.
Yeah, just ditto on everything that's been said. Thank you, for everybody that came out. And just hopefully everybody can come out to the National Night Out.
Councilmember Saper.
I will be recommending that people review what took place tonight and how the budget is put together, the thinking that goes behind it, the decisions that are made, and the questions that are asked. I hope everyone, and I will be encouraging them to review the tape of this meeting tonight, because it gives you an insight into city government that you almost never get any other way. So thank you to the city staff and to the rest of the council who have taken part in this.
And for those endeavoring to do such a thing, YouTube does have a feature that can bump the speed up to 2x. And if you pay premium, you can go as 3 and 4x. So, excellent. Now it's my turn. So I got a few updates to share. I've been trying to email council members about all these things, so I want to put stuff out publicly as well. Kansas City Area Transit Authority, if you've been following the news, is in a bit of a pickle. Kansas City, Missouri City Council did not approve a contract, and at this point, as of today, does not have even a pending redlined contract back from the KCATA. Board members through that organization have said without a contract, the bus system could implode as soon as next week. So we will be watching that. We had a meeting with Gladstone city leaders. They are done with the KCATA as of September 1st, and they're piloting a new system. We will be watching that pilot with eager eyes. And I am also calling together a meeting of other Northland city leaders to discuss a Northland transit option and what that could look like as a whole group in the Northland. So stay tuned for that. Next piece, school board and the city council will meet together for the first time in a very long time on August 8th, 6 p.m. at the high school. That is an open meeting, so put it on your calendar. Communication, what's that? August, what did I say?
You said 8th.
Did I say the 8th?
I can make it. No, I can't.
8/12.
8/12.
8/12/25 at 6. Yeah, there we are. Let's say it one more time. August 12th at 6 p.m. at North Kansas City High School. Very good. Next piece, communication solution, something that I talked about a lot when I was running for mayor. We had a meeting today with Granicus, that is our tech. They run our website. They run a lot of the back end of what we do here. And they proposed a communication solution that runs two directions, from staff to council to residents and everything back and forth. We'll be looking at that and possibly looking at some other options as well. National Night Out, definitely do that. I'll be there with my kids, my family. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got some ad hoc committees that are doing some great work. The Neighbors Helping Neighbors Committee has met a handful of times. We've got the new Resident Welcome Committee that's been meeting a couple times as well, putting together some thoughts on how we can let people know about new city services, getting them out there and trying new restaurants, new places around town. The Citizen Health Committee is putting together a potential passport, like a health passport for North Kansas City, wayfinding, so you walk around the city, you find some waypoints, try some healthy meals at different restaurants, participate in some health events, and many others that are just doing some great work. Royals, not a lot to share at this point. As many of you may have seen in the news, one of the senators in the Missouri legislature has put a legal challenge to the stadium bill that was approved, and we are watching that. Nothing really to update, but that could be something that slows the process even further. And then finally, this one is a little off topic, but if you've been following what's going on in California and Texas, and now it's coming home to Missouri, there is an effort from the Senate to potentially gerrymander a congressional district. They're calling on the governor to call a special session to address a map on partisan lines, and I will say from my seat right now, I firmly oppose that, not as a Republican, not as a Democrat, but as somebody who doesn't like dirty political nonsense. That's all from me. Item 21.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date pursuant to Missouri Revised Statutes, Section 610.0212, real estate matters, and Section 610.0213, personnel matter. Real estate matter, real estate matter, real estate matter, personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Yes.
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 At this time, the live feed will shut off and there will be no more business that will take place this evening.